Alrighty, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are finally live. Finally. How is everybody doing today? We've got ourselves the gray suit. I have a tartan. Red is overcoming blue. We suited up. Mike from corporate. I did not get a live notification from Discord. Oh, did I not do that? I may have forgotten. Here. Sorry about that, chat. Let me make sure it's happening. There you go. Discord live. We are live once again, chat. Welcome on in. And today is the day. Today is the day that you've been waiting for, which is we're on Fox News now. I feel like a member of the Hell's Angels who's going to trial. That's what I feel right now. By the way, looking sharp. Oh, thank you. Today is the day, chat, that we've been waiting for. The question of whether we are right or whether we are wrong about the opportunity. You should tie your hair back. No. It is June 23rd. It's a Tuesday. It is election day for the congressional representation of New York, Utah. Where else do we have elections today? Is there Maryland too? If you're in Utah, make sure you get out there and vote. If you're in New York, get out there and vote. Have you seen early polling data yet? If progressives win tomorrow in New York City, they will have done so in a much more typical Democratic electorate than Mamdani enjoyed last year, which of course they will, right? Like, Mamdani was the most important election in the entire country. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars on it. Of course that's going to be true. Of course that's going to be true. I need you to understand, like, yeah, obviously. Comparing it to 2025, the Mamdani national wave, like, it's honestly a silly point. And they're going to see that. The other thing is, a lot of mainstream older Dems like Zoran now. This is the other factor that people are not considering. The people that didn't vote for Zoran in 2025 primary like Zoran now, the mainstream Dems. So if anything, his endorsement has become more powerful, not less. So we're going to see. Also, we're going to see how powerful DSA will be. And so, like, that's the kind of thing that I would say. Like, this was always, you know, for me, this was always expected, right? That it's going to be a little bit closer to normal. The question isn't what 2025. The question we should be looking at is, like, comparing it to 2022. That's the more comparable election. Like, Zoran Mamdani had a record turnout. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the best turnout ever. The relevant comparison would be 2022, not 2025. And again, I'm not saying this to cope. Like, obviously, I want people to turn out, like, you know, for all these candidates like they did for Zoran. But the reality is that Andrew Cuomo is a lot more powerful of a politician than Goldman or any of these other people. Here in Salt Lake City, Utah, our DSA chapter knocked 21,000 doors for a local and national endorsed state Senate candidate. DSA has moved it. Yeah, it's fucking great. I'm in New York 12. Who do I vote for? Whoever you want. So that's my kind of general feeling I would have for all of you is to say you shouldn't leave anything on the table, right? Obviously you can't. But the mayor's race with somebody like Zoran Mamdani and someone like Andrew Cuomo, and the amount of money, effort, and time was being poured in, that's not going to be matched for congressional primaries that only affect certain districts, right? That's just, this is just kind of like really basic shit. So obviously, you know, we want something to change, right? We want more young people to come out. That's obvious. Mike, it looks like you're going to a job interview to be a foreman on the job site. That's what I said. I said I was like a Hell's Angel going to his parole hearing or something. Sounds like I have a cold. Yeah, hold on. Not super obvious if DSA candidates are helped or hurt by low turnout. This is narrativizing, by the way. Like, when people say low turnout, they're narrativizing. Again, the relevant comparison is 2022, not 2025. So when people are using 2025 to make their low turnout argument, they're actually lying, and or they're incompetent. Like, it's very frustrating for me to listen to analysis like this, because, like, it's not that these people are stupid. They're not stupid. They're just comparing apples to oranges, and they're getting the wrong take. Now, if it makes a bunch of people more motivated to go out and canvas for these people, leave it all out on the field. Like, I'm not saying don't work your ass off. Of course, go out there, knock doors. You could be the difference, especially for DARI. But if it's making you feel like depressed or like low energy, you should be, like, how many times was Claire Valdez talked about on MSNBC? Like, I think a lot of people don't understand that normies are not the same thing as you and I, right? The people who actually like know politics or have an idea, even an identification with a ideological faction, are extremely weird. It's not a good way to measure it. And you'll see. My personal belief is this. One, Zionism is very unpopular. So if that message got through for DARI, that's already going to help her tremendously. The second thing is Zoran Mamdani is now more popular with normie Dems, meaning his endorsement is even more powerful than it was when he was running for himself. Meaning like normal Democrats that didn't vote for Zoran in 2025 primary like him and trust him and think he's doing a good job. So his and turnout, we're comparing apples to oranges. The mayoral primary is a different race than congressional primaries. You're always going to have lower turnout for congressional primaries. It's literally impossible for you not to. like it was never going to be this way, especially when compared to Zoran. Like, what are we even saying? Like, setting that as a goal is aspirational at best and not really based on real. So if you're like looking at this and like thinking it's a sign that we're losing, then you're so far off of like reality that you're losing it. A person living in the Atlanta area, did phone banking for DARI, converted an undecided to vote for her last night. That vote matters, man. The I Love Puzzles lady phone banked. I'm a grandmother in California using my little microphone to maybe reach and motivate 20 voters in New York. I didn't know I wasn't following the puzzle lady. In New York, who are going to sit this one out. Your vote matters to us all. Change is contagious. DARI for New York's 13th congressional district based. So like, I wouldn't, like, obviously, yes, the early vote was a little bit more old. Like, that's just going to be the way it is. This race is going to be a little bit older. But like, the idea that we are like, oh man, that means that we're falling off. That's baby shit. That's narrativizing. You're being tricked. And there's only so much we could do with campaigns. This is something that everybody I need you guys to know this so that you're mentally sane. There's only so much you could do with the campaign. We can only motivate so many people to vote from like door knocking and phone banking and text banking, right? A lot of voting is self-motivating. It's like self-motivation, like people deciding they wanted to go vote. This is a very, like, you need to recognize that, right? Like, when we compare turnout between the presidential general election and the turnout for your local municipal elections, the difference is not because the local municipal people didn't campaign hard enough. It's that the regular people just don't care as much. And you can complain about it. You can think they're wrong. You can, work your ass off to convince as many people as possible that it matters. But it's just the way it goes, right? Like, and this stuff doesn't mean anything. It literally, I mean, listen, it being younger would be good. Like, that would be a sign we're winning a landslide. But it is what it is. Braids would go hard? No. Man bun, hell yeah, brother. Can you talk about how impressive or contextualized 90K phones rang yesterday with the help of Hassan? Yeah, it's badass. The only, it's incredibly great that we're able to get so many people phone banking and getting involved in these races. Every single one of those phone calls could be the difference. But again, not to poo-poo anything. I'm just saying, like, this is just bad analysis. This is like somebody who either is narrativizing or doesn't know much. I've seen some suggest that these numbers are a huge warning sign for DSA back to progressive candidates, but I respectfully disagree. I think it's important to remember that 2025 is an unusually high bar for comparison. Zoran Mamdani drove an unprecedented surge in youth turnout in both the Jew primary and November general election, and it was probably unrealistic to expect every candidate he endorsed to replicate that level of mobilization. Youth election EV turnout is solid, just not exceptional. And Progressive have posted a number of notable wins this year with fairly typical Democratic electorates. Exactly. We're not just like, that's the other thing. We have persuaded a lot of normie Dems to our side, right? So that's why I am That's why, like, listen, I get the, I get the feeling of like, yo, bro, like, we gotta like, we gotta be buzzy, we gotta be a little buzzy about this, right? We gotta feel the we put everything out on the field. But if it makes you feel like anxious and like disables you or makes you, concerned, then you're getting the wrong information. Assad Piker mobilized his young community to political organizing by making 90,000 calls vote backing for Zoran endorsed Dara Lisa for the New York 13th U.S. House race. I saw a video of her being yelled at by Zionists and posts with people being racist toward her. USA politics is so messed up. They have been using Haitian as a slur towards her. Hope she wins. From everything I've seen of her, she seems to be a really good person. Yes. Thank you for the resubs. She was my first canvas lead for Zoran last year, and that's why she's running. Like, things are, I look at this stuff. This is through day 8. Day 9 saw a huge increase in youth turnout. Oh, I didn't know about this. Oh, I didn't know about, well, there you go. Again, the narrativizing is not correct. The narrativizing, you gotta resist it. Like, I actually think that I don't mind this. Part of me doesn't mind this because it's like, let's have everybody be delusional. So when we win, it looks like an even bigger win. I think it's gonna be a sweep. And that's my general vibe. I think Espiat, stem the bleeding by going full fascist, right-wing Nazi, racial things. Like, I think that kind of like, I think that got some of his like, he ran what we call a, what's the word? Fuck. I'm blanking on the vocab. There's a political science term for it, and I'm blanking on the term. Basically, it's when you try to make people go like, run on their racial or ethnic identity. And that you're not ideological. It's like, I will help Dominicans and I will hurt Haitians. Communalism, thank you. God, I had a rant about that. That's exactly right. He ran a communalist campaign, which is actual third world shit. Like, it's actually third world shit. And when I say actual third world shit, what I mean is like colonizers dividing a colonized nation up according to these like tribes or other forms of identity to force them to do infighting against each other. And that results in scars being left on the nation, and this communalist identity continues. Like a Dominican American calling another Dominican American a Haitian as a way of like defaming, like, or insulting them or racially like attacking them. That's third world shit. It took 11 months for Rep. Adriano Espaillat to meet with his constituent Mahmoud Khalil after an unidentified ICE agents took him from his home. Khalil was upset. Espaillat had refused to meet with his wife to help their case. But it cost his seat? God, I hope so. God, I fucking hope so. If any chatters are in Bed-Stuy, we need poll site visibility. Yeah, why not? Get in there. Destiny agrees that with Asmol that Western culture is superior to Muslims.
Anti-Western, I guess, if that makes sense. Because, like, Muslims are usually not coming from, like, first world places if they're immigrating to the West. And Hassan is always going to want, like, or Asmongold is going to have a view of, like, Western culture in some regards is superior to the culture from some
What makes Western culture superior to Muslims? Like, it doesn't actually make sense. Like, ultimately, it comes down to we have more guns. Because what are you going to say? We're more tolerant of women's rights? You guys want to take women's right to vote away. We're more tolerant of queer people? You guys are, like, trying to force the back of the closet and make being trans a crime. We believe in free speech. What the fuck? You try to deplatform us for criticizing Israel. And you call us terrorist supporters for saying the United States is wrong for attacking Iran. Like, in what way is American culture superior? All the ways you say American culture is superior, you're trying to get rid of. Like, so what do you mean that it's superior? It's superior as long as you lose? I don't really give a shit about what Destiny says. He's actually irrelevant and stupid as fuck.
Conspiracy theory. It's very simple, actually. I don't want Israel involved in our politics, but
yes, you do, you fucking lying rat fuck. You just ran to the ADL to try to, like, promote, the idea of criticizing Israel is anti-Semitic, you fucking disgusting rat. You loser. You Zionist footstool, bitch. Criticize Judaism if show me that you don't like Israel. Like, because he'll criticize the fuck out of Muslims, but he'll never have a single word to criticize Jewishness. Why not? It's because he very clearly believes that you can't criticize Jewishness. Now, do you see me criticizing Jewishness? No, but I get called anti-Semitic. This is Mr. Iconoclast over there. Like, because I know it's not about Judaism. It's about Zionism. Do you understand? This guy tries to make it about religion instead of national politics or materialism or stealing land or colonizing people or murdering civilians. It's not about religion. They try to say that it's about religion because if it's about religion, then it's irrational. It's faith and belief. You're never going to convince someone through rational reason and diplomacy. That's why they say it's religion, so they can try to pretend that it's not about the cold, hard material facts of land theft and colonization and bombs and militaries and guns and the U.S. $350 billion for Israel.
I also don't blame everything on Israel, and I view that the focus around Israel is created by left-wing people.
Asman has been wearing the same Rainbow shirt for 15 days straight. If somebody made a compilation of all the days he's been wearing this shirt, we could then post it and it would go viral. Like, you guys think everybody knows that Asman Gold is disgusting, but they don't.
In order to divide the right. So they're united against, or they're divided with the issue of Israel, and they're fighting over Israel rather than fighting over demographic replacement, for example.
Demographic replacement is not a thing. It's not a thing. The only question is whether, you know, are you having the kids that you want? That's what you should be caring about. Are you able to have the family that you want? If the answer is no, then ask yourself, what in society is making me not capable of having the children that I want? Are you having trouble finding a partner? Are you having trouble affording the children or affording a home? So you're waiting until you're more financially stable. Can you not afford childcare so you don't have additional children because you had one kid, but the financial strain is too much, so you decided to have less kids than you wanted? That's the things that's relevant for you and your family. I don't give a shit about, quote, white. White moves around. White has changed since I've been alive. I'm old enough to remember when people used to be mocked the ever-loving shit out of Polish people and Greek people and Italians even. Like, the Brits used to maul over Poles moving to Britain. Are Polish people white? Are Ukrainians white? Are Russians white? I literally don't know because it moves the fuck around. It moves around for whatever is politically valuable for the fascists in the moment. So if a Polish person moves to the UK, is that demographic replacement? If an Austrian moves to Pennsylvania, is that demographic replacement?
I think that if Israel disappeared tomorrow and every Jew on the earth went to the moon, we would still have the same people pushing for the same ideologies and the same stuff. Hassan obviously isn't a Jew. I don't think he's from Israel. I'd be surprised if he was. That'd be quite a plot twist. But his ideology would remain. And so my argument...
Most of their, like, let's get down to brass tacks here. Like, and Asmod Gold is obviously stupid. What caused the refugee flood to America? The United States of America sanctioned and attacked Venezuela's economy, preventing them from trading with any country. The United States of America sanctioned and blockaded Cuba, preventing them from trading with other countries and from Americans who want to trade with Cuba or Venezuela from doing so. The sanctions that we put on Venezuela right during COVID caused their economy to crash by 35%. This is according to the U.S. government. That caused a lot of people to want to flee for economic reasons. There wasn't jobs for them anymore. Their families were harmed. So we created that migrant surge. The other migrants that have come to the United States were from Afghanistan and Syria. The United States of America supporting the Syrian civil war, including supporting ISIS and Al-Qaeda. We're now allied with an Al-Qaeda leader who rules over Syria. Why did we do that? Why did we invade Iraq? We invaded Afghanistan and kept the war going for 20 years, including 10 years after Osama bin Laden was killed, and we got our revenge for 9/11. So what the fuck is he saying? Like, all of these refugee floods, whether to Europe or to the United States, people want to stay with their families, in their cultures, in their communities, in their homes. They left because of shit we did to them. What Hassan and I want to do is stop interfering with these other fucking countries and leave them alone and focus on fixing our own shit. And here's my promise. I want to set up a program that goes door to door and finds guys like Asmongold and condemns their homes for being for living in dilapidated, condemned conditions that are shitting out rats and fucking cockroaches into the neighborhood. I want these guys taken 1055 and put on a psychiatric hold and have their senile squalor syndrome treated. I want their houses condemned, bulldozed, and have a homeless shelter built on the raised ruins. Okay? That's what I want for the future. I don't want anybody out on the street. 5150. Thank you. I don't know why I said 1050. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Anyway, 5150. I need you to sign up for SEAL Team 67. We'll go door to door. This is what we are going to do. We're going to go door to fucking door. I thought Yagopnik made a tweet. I was going to show you guys. Oh, here it is. This is what we're going to do to all of Asmongold's viewers. Okay.
人群中不再多言谈笑，这不上不下的年纪，学会向生活讨好，柴米半生，挣那三餐饭饱。
He's tired. Okay. His place is a paradise compared to Asmon's. Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it legitimately is. I don't know why the door kick is over the top. Okay, because it's an ad probably for like, listen, it's rough stuff. Okay, like, you know, anarchists believe you should allow people to live however they want to live, no matter how damaging it is to the collective. I don't agree. Claire Valdez voter asked about DSA. Okay, so let me just finish what I was saying. Anyway, vote for me, and I will set up SEAL Team 67 to go door to door to find every Asmongold fan. That is going to be a key plank in my... I'm going to help the young men, the young, neat men, find purpose in their life.
Is simply that, yes, Israel is a problem in America, and their influence is a problem, but at the same time, it's not the only problem.
We're literally fighting a war in Iran because of Israel. That destroyed, like, we got oil prices spiked by, like, $50 a barrel. That caused massive inflation in our country. They're trying to make it illegal to criticize Israel on any platform. You fucking worm.
And there are larger problems that exist that can be solved simultaneously, and anybody who positions themselves as against Israel does not mean that they are pro-America. That's my position.
Conspiracy theories.
My position. What a fucking worm. Honestly, like, people like Asmongold are unironically creating... First voter I spoke to at Ridgewood told me she voted for Claire Valdez, but doesn't associate with DSA because they aren't left enough for her. Off to a start in the commie corridor. That's what I want. By the way, chat, I want you guys to associate with DSA because this person is wrong. There actually is. I don't care how far left you are, they're in the DSA. So that's just nonsense. Whenever somebody says shit like this, I know they ain't for real. They ain't in it. No matter how far left you are, DSA, there's people like you at DSA. So that's just number one. Number two, this is a queen though. This is a queen though. She did the thing. She voted for Claire. Absolute W. All right.
We are 133 days away from the midterm elections, and tomorrow, New York votes. In a state with 26 congressional districts, exactly one is likely to change hands in November. None of what happens tomorrow will determine which party controls Congress, and yet, by tomorrow night, the Democratic Party may look meaningfully different than it does tonight. Whether that's a crisis or a correction depends entirely on where you sit. Every fault line running through the Democratic Party in 2026, progressive versus moderate, outsider versus establishment, fighter versus folder, is on the ballot tomorrow. And at the center of it all is a 34-year-old man who holds no congressional office, leads no party committee, and is 6 months into his first term as the mayor of New York City. Zoran Mamdani has put his name and his movement behind just 3 congressional candidates running tomorrow. He says the 3 will fight for everyday work.
All right, so basically my belief, you know, my opinions going into this year so far have been we're not running enough people for Congress and we can win a lot more races, okay? That has been my opinion. Other people who have disagreed with me respectfully in DSA have said, hey, we only have so much capacity. And, you know, we are, you know, running up against our capacity limits. So we need to pick and choose our spots and, you know, go for, you know, solid pickups where we go all in behind them. All right. This will be a good test. If all 3 of them win very close elections, the capacity people were correct. All right. Which is that things are good, but we needed to do everything we could in order to win. Right. If they all win solidly, that means I'm correct and we missed opportunities by not running more people. All right. If it's a mixed bag where, like, say a couple like Dara Lisa loses or something like that, or it's even if it's like, you know, like if it looks like, you know, only Claire wins or only Brad wins, that means that we're both wrong about there being a Democratic Party desire for change, right? Or at least in New York City, people were not realizing that the establishment Democrats are pro-Israel, and the, you know, the anti-Israel majority was not voting on that issue, right? They were distracted by some other strategy. So that's the way I look at it, right? Which is 3 possible outcomes. 3 close election wins, in which case the capacity people are correct. I would also say if like Dara loses by a very little bit, that's probably them being right as well. If that would indicate that Darlisa would be a little bit more of a capacity, like a person who lost due to capacity, or maybe vetting or some other issue where she wasn't quite good enough as a candidate. I don't think that's true, by the way. I'm just saying that's how you should approach these elections. You should try to come up with hypotheses. You should try to come up for explanations for why things are the way they are. You were asking for a screenshot? Yeah, I retweeted this. If this gets 5,000 likes, Ariana Grande has to marry me. Ariana Grande told me that once Destiny is in jail and H3 moves to Kick, we can get married. I proposed marriage to Ariana Grande a number of times and have yet to receive a response. Looking for Ariana Grande related accounts to follow. How could we get the news to Ariana Grande that I am available for marriage? Can I just say, like, Ariana Grande, like, looks like there's something going on with her. She looks really thin to me. I'm not trying to judge women's bodies or anything, but it's starting to make me a little. I saw some photos and videos from her tour, and she looks like she's suffering from some sort of issue. Like she was absolutely bone thin, and it was concerning. So this is on top of that. Like he's also saying all this weird shit about somebody like who's in distress. That makes it even more fucking weird. God, he's such a fucking creep.
Working New Yorkers take on corporate greed, protect immigrant communities. So let's take a closer look at Mamdani's chosen candidates and their races. In New York's 7th congressional district, Mamdani is backing
Caroline had a good discussion on her. Ooh, I'll check it out.
Assemblymember Claire Valdez. She's contending in a race for an open seat that covers parts of Queens and northern Brooklyn. In New York City's 13th district, which includes parts of the Bronx and Upper Manhattan, Mamdani is backing the community organizer DARI Avila Chevalier. She's running against Adriano Espaillat, a 5-term incumbent and the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. He's been described as the informal dean of New York Latino politics, and he spent decades mentoring a generation of Dominican and Latino leaders. The stakes of that endorsement are hard to overstate. But the endorsement getting the most attention is in New York 10, which spans Lower Manhattan and parts of Brooklyn. In that race, Mamdani is backing former city comptroller Brad Lander. But the alliance between Mamdani and Lander didn't start with this campaign. It was forged during last year's mayoral election. Lander and Mamdani were opponents who nevertheless found commonality with each other. And in New York City's ranked choice election with a crowded field of candidates, they made the competitive bet of cross-endorsing one another. Mamdani urged his supporters to rank him as their first choice and Lander as their second choice. Lander urged his supporters to rank him as their first choice and Mamdani as their second choice. That allowance has now followed them here, and what makes it remarkable is who Lander is running against. Dan Goldman came to national prominence when he served as the lead Democratic counsel in the first Trump impeachment hearing.
Wow, I can't believe the biggest super Zio was leading the impeachment. Do you guys remember how I said that? Remember how I was like, the way that the Democratic Party works is they try to get these centrist politicians, and he's in a deep blue seat. Why are they giving him lead prosecutor for the Trump impeachment? Because he is a part of the blob, the foreign policy blob. He agrees with Donald Trump on everything as far as foreign policy goes. They don't want to give any kind of visibility to talented progressive politicians because they might like become senators or they might become presidential candidates. So you only give these plum jobs that Democrats are, you know, really want to see to the right of the party. That's part of how Joe Biden and that's part of how like these centrists work, is they make sure like anytime somebody gets a job that, you know, the base is really going to love and be really interested in, you only give that to centrists. Even if they're in deep blue seats. It's not like he's in a fucking purple district, right? He's in a deep blue seat and he's got super far right positions on foreign policy, and yet he's getting this job. What's going on here?
He's now a two-term member of Congress. Goldman did not endorse Zoran Mamdani's mayoral campaign last year, neither for the primary nor for the general election. He said he was concerned about Mamdani's rhetoric about Israel and the Jewish community. That division over Israel has carried over to Goldman's race against Lander, and it's emblematic of a larger struggling happening across the Democratic Party. Both Lander and Goldman are Jewish and running in a district with a large Jewish population. But they've got very different views on U.S. support for the Israeli government. Lander has called Israel's actions in Gaza a genocide. He supports restrictions to U.S. military aid to Israel, and he vows not to take money from AIPAC. On the other hand, Goldman has been endorsed by AIPAC and has received hundreds of thousands of dollars from groups and individuals affiliated with. For Mamdani's part, he says the three candidates he supports will be partners that he needs in Congress to make New York a more affordable place for working people to live. Joining me now is the Democratic mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani. Mayor Mamdani, good to see you here. Thank you for joining us.
Oli, thank you so much for having me. And, before we begin, I just want to speak directly to New Yorkers. A year ago, you shocked the world. You took a chance on me, and for that, I will be forever grateful. Tonight, I come to you asking you to take a chance again. Now, the names may be different, Daria, Lisa, Brad, Claire, but the fight is the same. A fight to reject a broken status quo. A fight to reject a politics of hate, division, and fear. A fight to reject a politics of big money and small ideas, and instead, a vote for a city you can afford. A vote for the values that make us proud to be New Yorkers. Tomorrow's election day. Let's show them who we are.
So let's talk about the status quo, what you call the broken status quo. I spoke with Hakeem Jeffries last month about these non-open seat primaries, meaning there's an incumbent in them, and the possibility of progressive challenges against incumbents. Listen to what he told me.
Well, we're going to continue to defend every single House incumbent. Ultimately, however, it's going to be up to the people, and that's the reality of serving in the House of Representatives.
So that was intriguing. It's ultimately up to the people, but the party has always backed incumbents. If two of your three candidates win tomorrow, they will be the first to unseat a sitting Democratic incumbent in the country. There have been two Democratic incumbents who have been defeated. That's because they were redistricted into challenging each other. Tell me why you're investing in it.
I think what we see in these candidacies, whether it be of Brad or Daria, Lisa or Claire, is a fight for a vision that has working people at the heart of it. And that is pertinent in our city because we are the most expensive city in the United States of America. And it's also pertinent across the country because we know that no matter where you live, working people are struggling with the cost of living crisis. And in each of these campaigns and each of these candidacies, I see champions who would not only be partners of our affordability agenda in Washington, but also help to lead our party in a new direction where we understand that at the heart of everything we do must be the dignity of working class people that for too long have been in the rearview mirror of the Democratic Party.
Let's work through a couple of these. Dan Goldman didn't just decline to endorse you for mayor. He went on CNN and said he was very concerned about your rhetoric, said he didn't know if he was going to vote for you in the general. And by his own words, he didn't. Is there a personal element to your decision to endorse Lander over Goldman?
The only personal element...
Oh, my God, dude. Like, it's so funny because, the drama slop is in every level of media. Do you not are you guys fighting? Are you guys fighting? Is that why you don't like Dan Goldman? I don't like Dan Goldman because he's a Zionist genocidal maniac, enemy of humanity. It has nothing to do with his personality, which I'm sure also sucks ass.
Of it comes from my admiration of Brad and someone that I've gotten to know not only as a colleague but also as a friend. And as you were sharing earlier, we were both running for the same position last year. And yet what we both understood is that if we want to bring a new kind of politics to our city, we also have to embody that. And the two of us joined hands and showcased what it could look like if politics had a little bit more sincerity at the heart of it instead of the typical cynicism.
I have a pretty good bullshit detector. It's not infallible because nobody's is, but I get it. Brad Lander's gonna win. We're taking credit for it, but I don't trust this motherfucker.
That drives so much of it. And Brad is running a campaign where...
You think DSA will go 3 for 3 on the seats? I'm feeling like 2 out of 3. Also, I live at Park Slope. Lander has basically been the mayor of Park Slope already, according to lifelong Park Slopers I know. I think Daria Lisa is gonna win because her opponent is more Zionist. I think that Claire has a stronger opponent, right? I actually think that Espaillat is a weaker opponent. It doesn't basically Claire is having to fight against WFP. It's very annoying. And like elements of the progressive left. So her campaign is like, you know, that campaign is harder to win when you're fighting with someone in your lane. So, I mean, obviously, I think Claire's going to win because Claire's the best. Daria Lisa, you know, obviously at the end of the day, she's fighting against a mega Zionist. And I think like that contrast is really going to matter.
He is showing what it looks like, to use the words of Mr. Rogers, to be a good neighbor. And I can't wait to see someone who's not just had my back, but has had the backs of New Yorkers, whether they're immigrants, whether they're small business owners, whether they're people who are being unjustly detained by ICE, to finally be able to go to Congress and have the back of this entire city.
And Brad Lander has constantly gone to court. He's been arrested for doing it. In fact, he was just found not guilty of those charges a couple of weeks ago. He's called what Israel is doing in Gaza a genocide. Dan Goldman will not use that word. He also won't use the word occupation to describe Israel's presence in the West Bank and Gaza. Both of them are Jewish, and both of them want to represent a district with a large Jewish population. So what does that tell us about the future of the Democratic Party, that this has become such a major fault line?
Well, I think for many it's a crisis not only in our politics, but also in our morals. And what New Yorkers are looking for are leaders who are able to say that they believe in human rights no matter whom it applies to. And I think you can see that in Brad. It's not just his willingness to name the genocide for what it is or the occupation for what it is. It's also his commitment to actually co-sponsor the Block the Bombs legislation that would stop our country from being complicit as it is in the continued massacring of Palestinians through the Israeli military's bombs. And that's what we want to see. We want to see a new kind of leadership that is willing to chart a path forward, that invests in babies and doesn't invest in bombs.
What happens? You tend to give off an optimistic vibe, so you probably don't want to answer this question. But what happens if your candidates lose? Is there an undercurrent to this whole dynamic that there's some danger doesn't go away after this election cycle? I mean, will you get behind anybody who's a Democratic candidate who wins tomorrow night?
You know, if whoever wins tomorrow night, I'll be there to be a partner with them. What I will tell you is that I've taken all my time and thought about the fact that we could be seeing New Yorkers electing all three of these candidates to becoming the next congresspeople representing our city in the delegation in Washington, D.C. And I think whether you're talking about Brad in New York 10, Daria Lisa in New York 13, or Claire Valdez in New York 7, you see the opportunity to write a new chapter in our politics. And New Yorkers are hungry for change. And what they...
That's the other thing, like, this is an opportunity for us to add two people that are to the left of AOC, you know, and that'll put a little bit of energy, a little bit of pressure on AOC to look around and see like, hey, these people won without me.
See in each of these candidates, whether it's fighting back against special interests looking to buy these kinds of elections, whether it's finally saying that it's time to abolish ICE, or whether it's to send a union organizer to Congress to make sure that the fight for working people is at the heart of our politics, each of these candidates has the answer to so much of what our party has been missing.
Let's talk about New York 13. There has been reporting that Adriano Espaillat, who endorsed you after you won the primary when you were running for mayor, there's been reporting that you said you would endorse him. What happened there?
You know, the promise I made to New Yorkers was to use every tool at my disposal to fulfill the affordability agenda. And one of those tools is to endorse candidates who will help you to be the partner that you need at the federal level. That's why I made the decision to endorse Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier. She is the daughter of a single mother caseworker who has spent her life fighting for working people. And what we've seen in her track record is not just freeing New Yorkers that have been unjustly detained by ICE, but also in standing up and calling for a foreign policy rooted in humanity. You know, I'll tell you, tonight I was walking the streets of her district with her. We ran into a man coming out.
Very important to say, Zoran is endorsing her because of her foreign policy, chat. So if you see a, quote, progressive org attacking her over her foreign policy, they are implicitly attacking Zoran.
A bodega with 2 packets of Huggies in his arms. And he personified what she has often said, which is it's time to vote for a congressperson who's investing in babies, not bombs. The people of New York 13 are struggling to afford life in the nation's most expensive city, and yet what they've seen for so long passing as acceptable politics is spending those tax dollars abroad as opposed to right here in our city.
Let me ask you about the border czar, Tom Homan. He said recently, quote, "You're going to see more ICE agents than you've ever seen in New York City, and it's coming." You seem to have a working relationship with President Trump, and a lot of that has centered around your priorities as it relates to immigration and affordability. What do you make of why Tom Homan said that and what it means?
No, I think we'll continue to see threats coming from the federal administration, whether it's Homan or others. And I think what they need to understand is that our values, our laws, they are not bargaining chips. We are not embarrassed of the fact that we are a sanctuary city. We are proud of that fact. And I've spoken to the president directly, as well as said so in public, that I believe that ICE is a cruel agency that does nothing to further the interests of public safety. It's why I agree with DARI Avila Chevalier in that we have to abolish ICE. And what we need to do is create an immigration system that has humanity back at the heart of it. You know, I'm the mayor of a city of 8.5 million people. More than 3 million are immigrants, and I'm one of them. And yet what we've seen this federal administration's policies do is wreak havoc across our city. And it's not just on those who do not have documentation. Frankly, it breeds a sense of fear among so many who call the city home, where they don't know if they're going to step out of their home and be profiled purely on the basis of the color of their skin, or if they can actually live the same life that they were hoping to live in this.
Mayor Mamdani, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time tonight.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Ali.
New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani.
Rama endorses Clara Darlisa, but not Brad. God, she's so fucking cool. She's so fucking cool. I am always right, dude. Like, it's actually getting obnoxious how right I am. Like, I'm starting to feel it's a little bit of obnoxious. I'm starting to feel bad about being right all the time. You know what I mean? I'm like, God damn, I don't like Brad Lander. And then Zoran Mamdani's wife is like, you're right, Mike. He kind of sucks. He kind of sucks. God, she's so cool. When you follow Mike in his commentary, you're always right all the time too, basically. I mean, thank you, Casey Tron, for saying that. All right, so I wanted to talk about this. They're trying to call Zoran anti-Semitic because he said AIPAC are monsters.
As Mayor Mamdani tries to get 3 left-of-center congressional candidates over the finish line.
Left of center, yeah, that's true.
And in tomorrow's Democratic primaries, some Jewish...
They're barely over the center. In my worldview, Claire Valdez, she's a little bit too right-wing. She's barely left of center for me. But I'm making a lesser of 2 evils vote and voting for Claire. The crying man Fox News got you in the suit. What the hell? Like, she ain't gonna tap you, mate. Quit simping, you loser cuck. Who are you talking about, man? Are you talking about Claire Valdez? Like, what are they saying? What are they saying? Do I need a suit? Everybody should have a suit. I recommend that you get a gray suit and a navy suit. Black suit is optional. Too poor for that. You can get suits for fucking cheap these days. Wear suits all you want, but I'll never. Honestly, suits are like designed to make you look good. You know, it like kind of implicitly covers your double chin. You know, it gives you a nice chest shape. You know, narrows your waist. Like, what do you do? Like, it's just makeup for men. Gottheimer and Greenblatt take orders from Israel. Israel UN rep. Okay, we're gonna look at that in a second.
Leaders say he's using anti-Israel tropes to mobilize the voters who helped elect him. Political reporter Marsha Kramer has that story.
Slowly but surely, they will all have suits. Not bad. Not bad. All right. Mamdani doubles down on AIPAC attacks.
Story.
It started last week when Mayor Mamdani tried to mobilize votes for Brad Lander, Claire Valdez, and DARI Avila Chevalier by going after AIPAC, a pro-Israel lobbying group. The mayor called the group monsters.
In AIPAC, for whom the only thing more frightening than democracy being allowed to run its course is an end to genocide and Netanyahu's wars.
Today, the mayor doubled down on his AIPAC attack, in effect blaming AIPAC for the death of Palestinians in Gaza.
I think that it is important that when we ask ourselves how such death and destruction is happening overseas, we also name those who allow it to take place.
Jewish leaders say the mayor's remarks are reckless, adding to anti-Semitism.
He's turning to AIPAC and saying, AIPAC desires genocide. He's saying that I, a supporter of AIPAC, desire genocide.
The mayor's AIPAC attack comes as the Board of Elections reported that just under 173,000 New Yorkers went to the polls during early voting, stoking fears that candidates he endorsed could be in trouble.
The mayor knows that the only way he has success is if there's large turnout of people that are not really interested in politics. That's not happening this time. So what he's doing is politicizing Palestine, politicizing Israel, politicizing what's happening in the Middle East to try to see if he could excite the same people that came out to support him last year.
So, Marsha, why is it so important for the mayor to have these 3 people in Congress?
Well, you know, what the mayor's doing is very risky.
Going back over Dari, it's cold out here. Anecdotal but freezing response so far. I will tell you at this point, not to cope for you guys or anything, but at this point, they've absolutely wrung out the phones as hard as they can, and they're expanding the universe. They've wrung out the phones as much as they can, and they are expanding the fucking universe. So I would expect it to be a bit rougher than it is. Because they've called everybody that they can fucking call. So now they're like, well, we'll try to call more people. What is this idea that supporting a candidate and they lose risky, you fucking learn from trying and losing anyway? It's made up. Basically, what the media is trying to do is they're trying to discipline Zoran and be like, Zoran isn't that popular, guys. He didn't, blah, blah, blah. It's trying to make it feel riskier for him. Because all politicians are inherently self-interested to a certain extent. Because you're the name on the ballot, right? When you run for office, it's your name. If you're lucky, you could have an organization you're with or a party you're with be next to your name. But it's your name on the ballot. So necessarily it's a popularity contest about you. And so what these media figures try to do is they're trying to make it so that these insurgent candidates, which are already fighting an uphill battle, incumbents win 95% of the time in a primary. So they're trying to make it as difficult as possible because they also know something else. All these incumbents are paper fucking tigers. All of them are paper fucking tigers. So if Zoran pulls this off, you're going to see a fucking cope session, the likes of which you've never seen.
He's trying to unseat 2 sitting congressmen. He's bucking the wishes of the governor and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and his political brand is on the line. Now, if he succeeds, he helps establish socialists as a political power in New York. And think about his political brand. 2 of the people he's endorsing are relative unknowns, so getting them elected to Congress makes him a kingmaker, so he's got a lot riding on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. But what about those attacks on AIPAC?
Well, look, some Jewish leaders say it's dangerous because it can also be blamed for any rise in anti-Semitism and charges that he's not the mayor for all the people. So he's got a lot riding on.
He's not. They're absolutely right. I'm not the mayor for AIPAC. If AIPAC is what you want to support, if you want American money to flow to Israel no matter what crimes they commit, I'm not your candidate. I'm the candidate of Americans. I'm the candidate of New Yorkers. It's a fucking dream for you to say that shit. Now, in the past, like, if you're wondering why it took so long for this reality to work, well, beyond the way that AIPAC used to work was influence peddling, right? Which is most people didn't really care about the Israeli issue, except for AIPAC supporters who really super cared. So if you're a politician and you're trying to raise money for your campaign, if you're trying to get the 50% plus one, and a bunch of guys show up and they're like, hey, the issue that we care about is Israel. If you're on board with Israel, we'll give you $1 million. It was easy and automatic for politicians to go, hell yeah, I'm in favor of that. They're like, all right, we just gave you 50 volunteers and $1 million. Of course, a politician is going to take that deal, right? And that's how AIPAC was able to control our government. Because 99% of the time, Israel wasn't that relevant to the national. It wasn't an issue that would make people vote against you, right? It was behind the scenes. It was irrelevant. It was basically a deep, nerdy policy position that only the most educated people, the most in touch people even understood the consequences of what was happening. But now with the genocide that took place at 4K, everybody understands that what you were paying for, what those politicians were getting money for, was to support Israel no matter what they did, whatever crimes they committed, and to do so with our money. So now taking that AIPAC money is not free. Now taking that AIPAC money is going to get a bunch of people motivated against you. That's going to get a bunch of people ready to primary you. We have changed the game. Also, what is this hairline? Oh my God. That's a comb over. Look where her bangs start. Holy shit. I didn't notice. Anyway, let's keep going.
Tomorrow's primary election.
You know, it's okay to retire, by the way. Like, you don't need to be 75 years old and on TV. Like, you actually don't. It's okay to retire. Like, part of the I'm going to say something and it's going to sound mean and I don't care. Part of the reason you could tell America's decaying is because old people never give up their fucking job and go like live with their families, right? They never just retire and go like plant a tree. They hold on to these jobs forever and always. And like, I'm sorry, but when I turn on the television and every other person is elderly getting Social Security, it's fucking weird. Retire.
We'll all be watching. Thank you, Marcia. And before you head to the polls tomorrow, check out our complete voter guide at cbsnewyork.com.
She needs more time for her children not to talk to her. This is a baby boomer thing. Never retire, terrified of death, no contact children. Also, spending all their ill-gotten real estate profit on themselves, right? They bought a house for $70,000 that's now like 1.5 million, and they're just like borrowing all that equity and spending it on themselves. By the way, chat, SpaceX has hit a new 52-week low today. They had a really big crash. It's been crashing since IPO day. The week after IPO day, it's been on a really pretty solid decline. IPO'd at 160 and now is at 157. So if you bought on IPO day, you're down quite a lot of money. Majority of the volume being at prices higher than it currently is. It doesn't have an earnings per share. It has loss per share. Yeah, I know. It's an absolute dog company. Earnings per share, negative 72 cents. Negative 220 PE. This is one of the most incredible numbers I've ever seen. Net margin, negative 45%. But bubbles are bubbling, man. It's funny that the things boomers criticize millennials for, participation trophies, were made by boomers for boomers because they couldn't stand their children not being a special snowflake. We should go back to calling them the me generation. Well, that's the thing that's funny about the participation trophy, right? It wasn't, we didn't make them. Like, I remember swim meets, right, chat? And I was a breaststroke specialist on my swim team. I was the breaststroke specialist. So I would swim like the breaststroke. I'd do the medley relay. I would do, I would also swim the freestyle, but I hated freestyle. I wasn't that, I was like the third best freestyler on our swim team. So, whatever. But I think I did a backstroke one time. I'm also not a backstroke enjoyer. And they gave us so like if you win the meet, you would get like a blue ribbon, right? First place. I think it was blue is first, red is second, white was third. And then you would get this like multicolored tie-dye participation ribbon if you finished like fourth or less. And they would they would shrink in size. So like the blue ribbon for first was like biggest. And then the red I think was second, if I remember correctly. Again, this is 30 years ago. And then the white was like third. Isn't that right, chat? Am I wrong? Or is that right? I feel like that's right. There's got to be some swimmers in here. Sometimes we would get yellow for fourth. Now that I remember, I think occasionally you would get yellow for fourth. I thought blue ribbons for large hogs. That means first place. Save for track. I thought track got neck medals. I got a finisher medal for all the races I run and get pissed when I don't. Finisher medal. Amazing. That's what I'm talking about. All right, chat. Morris Katz went on television for Fight Agency.
Continuing our conversation about tomorrow's primary elections. Joining me now to talk about this year's primary season and what it will mean for the Democratic Party is Morris Katz. He served as a campaign strategist for Mayor Mamdani. He has also spent time advising other candidates in the city, including Brad Lander, Michael Lasher, and Claire Valdez. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Thanks so much for having me. Always a pleasure to be here.
The conventional wisdom is that tomorrow will be a referendum on Mayor Mamdani's influence and whether or not it extends to other candidates not named Zohran Mamdani. Is that a fair reading of the races?
Look, I think that tomorrow is a referendum on the future of the Democratic Party. And it's a referendum on what kind of a politics people want to see in this city. And I think in Claire Valdez, in Brad Lander, in DARI in the mayor's slate, you have candidates who embody a politics similar to the one he embodied that, a year ago we sat here that shocked the nation. I think what we saw that last June was a hunger for a politics that turned the page on a politics beholden to big money and small ideas. And people wanted ambition, people wanted change, people wanted a new generation of leaders. That's on the ballot again. And I think people are still hungry for those things and are ready to take a chance on a government they can believe in again.
Okay, so let's test that. When we talked about how Mamdani unexpectedly won last year, you said one of the keys was a clear, easily repeatable set of promises that were relevant, right? So fast and free buses, freeze the rent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Unlike the mayor, though, who can actually do something about 2 or 3 different things, or at least promise to credibly, members of Congress, it's really done at the conference level, not the individual member. And, you know, I mean, like, I moderated a bunch of these debates. The promises were kind of all over the place, but none of them were as direct as, I will freeze your rent. What kind of a challenge
Because you're a congressional member. I think one of the problems that we have is that people are kind of stupid, and we're all embarrassed to say it because we don't want to offend them. Like, AOC can say, I believe in Medicare for all and I support Medicare for all, but if she wins on that basis, she can't make it happen unless you also win 216 other people that agree and a president, or sorry, 215 other people that agree and a president and the Senate. But in order to get to that number, you have to have at least one. And it's like the brainlessness of, you know, oh, a congressional member is going to make promises. Well, some of the things they can do, they can say, like, I'm going to do every policy that comes across my desk that helps working class people. But I also want us to push toward these grand policies that will actually solve the issues. In order to do that, you're never going to get a politician to do something they didn't promise to do unless they're getting bribed. So the first thing that you need from your politicians in order to get them to do it is that for them to be able to speak that they're going to do it. That's step fucking one. So, but when you're an executive, you could say, I'm going to do this thing. And when you have the executive authority to do it, you can. Mike, holy shit, the Fox to Clips to suit pipeline is real. So true. So true. Hold on. Let me make sure everything is tight.
Is that for you as the person doing the messaging for them?
Well, I think one of the things I give voters a lot of credit for knowing the difference between federal offices and executive offices, and knowing that an
Thank you, Morris. Thank you so much. Oh my God. He's basically saying you're a fucking idiot. He's saying what I said, but nicely.
Credit for knowing the difference between federal offices and executive offices.
Thank you.
And knowing that an executive has the ability to deliver on specific sets of promises in a way that one member of Congress doesn't. But I think part of what's so exciting about this slate of Brad, Claire, and Dari is these are people, these are candidates who will be so much more than just one vote in Congress. They're not just going to vote the right way. They're going to be leading voices on these issues, whether that's standing up to bad landlords, abolishing ICE, protecting democracy, getting dark money out of politics. These are people who've all in their own ways proven they're willing to put their bodies on the line when it comes to ICE being in New York City. They're willing to meet with every single person who is a victim of an affordability crisis. They're willing to kind of expand out of the traditional role of what we've seen politicians be when they're kind of just standing by, watching something unfold, maybe issuing a press release or showing up when it's election season, but not every single day using every tool at their disposal to change things. And so I think they've run campaigns on those issues, on taking on ICE, on addressing the affordability crisis through federal action that really speak to that and speak to that ambition and speak to a different kind of politics.
So I mean, you know, obviously there are incumbents who would take great issue with the idea that they've been standing around kind of watching things unfold, and that they've done what they could. They're in the minority. There are limits, and one needs to be realistic about what those limits are. And that's kind of what I was getting at, is that somebody gets elected, if they're, let's say it was now and not November, if they're in the minority, and they're only part of a conference and they're not in the leadership because they're a backbencher, they're a freshman, realistically, how much can they actually do?
I kind of reject a little bit of the premise there, Errol, in the sense of I think I take great issue, and I think their constituents take great issue with seeing someone like Congressman Espaillat take millions of dollars from AIPAC donors and cast votes to send taxpayer dollars that could be going to Upper Manhattan, that could be going to the Bronx, and instead sending it to Netanyahu to continue to bomb children in Gaza. I think there are a lot of people in Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn who take issue with Dan Goldman accepting money from corporations, from corporate PACs, from AIPAC, and casting those same votes, casting votes to expand ICE's authority of surveillance, similar to how Congressman Espaillat voted to continue to give $8 billion to ICE long after it was clear what was occurring. And so I think those are things that are actual votes they took. And then you contrast that with the records of the other candidates in this race.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, look, the ICE funding.
Well, you're talking about policy, but what if I just do? Make some vague signal that you're anti-Semitic? I'm talking about that policy stuff and get back to talking about the personal drama.
Some of this came out during the debates. I mean, you're talking about, he sent $8 billion to ICE. Part of a much bigger package that included
but there were Democrats who fought to oppose that.
Oh, but it was part of a bigger package. It was part of a bigger package. It's part of a bigger He voted to give $8 billion to ICE. Period. Dot. That's his record.
Women and children to get prenatal services and food and everything else. If you're saying the candidates you're supporting are never going to vote for that, I'd like to see that.
No, what I'm saying is the candidates I'm supporting, I think there's a kind of conventional wisdom that's accepted from status quo politicians that inherently you have to compromise. And I think anyone knows that you're never going to get everything you want in a deal. What I find, and I think what voters find frustrating, is this belief that compromise must come on the backs of working people, that compromise must come in the form of furthering investing in Trump's masked bandits. You know, that, I think there are certain places we can draw a line and we can use the power that we have that elected officials have to stop that. And I think what you're going to see tomorrow is a referendum on just how frustrated are people with politics as usual.
How do you stop that? You are presented as a member of Congress with an omnibus bill, right? It includes money to feed hungry children in your district, pregnant women in your district.
That's why it's very important. That's why it's very important to do things called amendments. It's very important to to get Hakeem Jeffries out of leadership so he doesn't bring omnibus amendments that fund ICE, right? Like that's why it's very important that you elect Daralisa and Claire so they cannot elect Hakeem Jeffries, the capitulating compromiser and collaborator with Trump.
Strict SNAP benefits and everything else, and there's funding for ICE that you cannot stop, that you don't have the votes to stop.
We're just going to create a magic hypothetical where you lose. How about no? By the way, do they ever ask centrists these kind of compound questions? Ask yourself if they've ever asked a centrist this type of compound question. And the problem with this kind of hypothetical, where the hypothetical is you lose, and either you capitulate to me or children starve. That's the hypothetical. Can you imagine the opposite? We're stripping funding from Israel in the omnibus bill, but if you vote against it, you get rid of food stamps and all this other shit. Would they ever ask a centrist AIPAC stooge that question? Would you vote against funding for your district in order to protect Israel? That's never asked. That's how you know this question is complete bullshit.
Your conference doesn't have the votes to stop. Your leadership has already told you don't have the votes to stop. What
the
is
host's wife work for Cuomo and Spitzer? That's all you need to say.
This new member going to do?
I mean, I think there are multiple things that can draw attention to an issue that can change votes. That's something we've seen repeatedly. And so whether it's actions like what Brad Lander did last year, getting arrested, putting his body on the line, DARI Eliza similarly has taken similar actions. I think those are actions that drive media attention and coverage that change the political realities for members. I also think that there is an often built-in consensus that, well, we're not going to get what we need in the budget, so we don't have the votes to organize. So we're not even going to try to peel off a few Republicans in vulnerable districts. So we're not going to ask Democrats in competitive districts to take these votes because we're buying some myth that it's unpopular. We need people in Washington who are going to shake up and challenge that mentality to see different results.
Okay. You mentioned funding from AIPAC, which I know is like a buzzword and something that all of the candidates you're supporting and many other candidates go to again and again and again. You're not saying that funding or involvement through or by AIPAC is illegal, right? But you're saying it's some sort of marker that this candidate is completely unacceptable?
No, look, I think that when you were, it's up to the voters to decide what's acceptable and unacceptable. What I'd say is I think that...
I mean, but you're the message guy, and you made sure to put that message out.
I think that when you're seeing an issue that is as unpopular as taxpayer dollars funding wars half a world away, while we struggle with our own affordability crisis in the city, continuing to vote in that way, continuing to fund those wars, to both does not make sense and is not forgivable right now. I think the reason that happens is because AIPAC spends millions and millions of dollars on elections, buying the votes and the influence over politicians who are willing to sell out their districts.
Something I've noticed.
I mean, and that's completely, everybody agrees with that, by the way. Everybody agrees with that, by the way. And of course, we'll have these conversations, right? Let's keep having these debates on these terms. Like, there's really nothing more to say, and great way of putting it. You guys are accepting millions of dollars from AIPAC and then pretending like we have to vote for Israel or else children in America are going to starve. That's a fucking lie. You know it's a fucking lie, but you're a disgusting sellout and you don't believe in actually fighting for your constituents or standing up for what's right. We do. And the voters have a choice. Let's see what one they make.
In New York 13 and New York 7, some lower level races as well, is that there are progressive candidates backed by the DSA in most cases. They look for communities of color where there's kind of low voter turnout. They come in often with outside money from the Justice Democrats or somewhere else. They run an aggressive door-knocking campaign. And, you know, like I understand that's like all's fair in politics. Nobody's breaking the law or anything like that. But they are in some ways displacing or at least disregarding older political structures that were there, that were based on, you know, ethnic affiliations, old line voting patterns, old line voting machines, tenant associations, and so forth. It's legal, you know, and like I said, all's fair. But is it progressive?
Look, I think that what you're seeing in rhetoric out of both, frankly, the SPAC campaign and the Ray No-Show campaign is an attempt to turn the tenant, and the mayor talks about this in his speech on Thursday night, an attempt to turn a tenant of 40 years on the tenant of 1 year. An attempt to kind of divide off of age and off of race and off of religion who has a right to this district, who has a right to representation in this district. And I think that is not what's going to drive our city forward. And I think the way that the mayor put it is that, you know, the question that New Yorkers are facing right now is not when did you arrive, but can you afford to stay? And I think what these candidates, Claire and Dari and Brad, have in common is a shared belief that there's an affordability crisis that is impacting someone who moved here a year ago or 2 years ago, and it's impacting people who lived here for 50 years and just want to stay in the only community they've known, and are going to meet that and build a new coalition similar to the one the mayor built last November.
I got to ask before I let you go, you made national headlines. You're an advisor involved in the campaign of Graham Plattner, high-profile Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate up in Maine, where we're on the air, by the way. They get New York One up there. But this is a guy, he had a tattoo associated with Nazis. He had an online dating profile well after he was married. A lot of what we would call political...
Wait, what did he say? Back that up.
Where we're on the air, by the way. They get New York One up there. But this is a guy, he had a tattoo associated with Nazis.
A tattoo associated with Nazis. Okay.
He had an online dating profile
online dating profile well after he was married. Okay. An online dating profile. They're not even accusing him of being a cheater. They're saying he had an online dating profile. Now, listen. I wouldn't want my spouse to do that. I'd be fucking pissed. I'd even understand someone divorcing a spouse for that. But they're not even alleging he cheated on his wife. They're saying that he flirted behind his wife's back. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's not political relevant. That is fucking crap. And the tattoo has been covered up, and he has had members of his unit say they didn't know it was a Nazi tattoo. They thought it was a skull and bones, which is what the tattoo is. So what are we saying here? What are we actually saying here? Are you saying Graham Plattner is a Nazi? No? Okay. Are you saying he's a bigot? No. Are you saying he committed adultery? We know Susan Collins did. So what are we even doing here? This is just blathering to support Israel. Let's be honest.
A lot of what we would call political baggage. Was that known?
None of that's political baggage. Those are personal smears. That's not political baggage. That's personal smears. Political baggage is taking $100 million from AIPAC, like Susan Collins has said, because that's about policies and politics. Personal smears are not political baggage, you fucking liar.
Or does that matter? Or was this a matter of, like, he's the best candidate and we'll take him baggage and all, and we think we can win?
From day one of the campaign, Graham's run talking about being someone who never thought he would run for office, who lived a life up to that point, the way someone would live a life not knowing they were going to run for office. And what that included is, you know, he served 4 tours in the Middle East. He came back. He struggled with PTSD. He struggled with drinking, with depression, had a dark period on the internet, like so many young men, particularly who return home from war. And he's run a campaign being entirely open and honest about that. And the way he talks about it that I think resonates and that I certainly believe in is if you believe that politics can change, if you believe we can change someone's votes, if we can change our government, then you have to believe inherently in a person's ability to change. Mm-hmm. And I believe in that. And I think Graham's told a story across Maine that's resonated in that way.
Okay. There's some odd variables going on, in particular rain.
Honestly, I want to increase my menace factor. Right? I need to increase my menace factor. I was like yesterday, I was thinking that, you know, I need to contact Christian and Austin because they like, I don't know if you guys know, but Austin is pretty built. You know, Austin is pretty built. He's kind of a sleeper build. Like, he's pretty fucking built. So he knows what the fuck he's doing. All right? Like, he knows what the fuck he's doing. And he's more similar of a body type to me than like Hassan is. So I gotta like lean out and get ripped like Austin. But then I also want to go back into the ring. You know? I want to get into boxing shape. I want to just do like 1,000 uppercuts a day. You know? Get back into boxing shape. Just so that we can up our menace factor. Is it a sleeper build if he finds any opportunity to take his shirt off? I mean, true. Track your calories, eat your protein, work out 2 to 3 times a week. That's a good starting point. That's healthy. Austin eats nuts as a cheat meal. You have no chance with him. I don't know. I've taken Austin out to really luxurious dinners, man, chat. You know, like, I've seen the boy have some real cheat meals, okay? Like, go to boxing gym 1 hour a day and you'll lose weight and build muscle? No shit. You can still tell chat to do phone banking? I did. Actually, mods, can you get a phone bank link and pin it? Can you guys find a phone bank link for Daralisa and Claire? Actually, like, listen, I love Daralisa, but can we also make sure Claire is getting some love? I don't want people to think that, like, don't bank Claire winning, okay, right? And put all your energy in Daralisa. Like, also go and make sure Claire has got all the support she needs. Now, I just tweeted something, chat, and this is basically my position. I personally believe that all 3 of Zoran's congressional slate will win. Why? 1, left candidates have overperformed polls almost everywhere across the country. 2, Zoran is more popular with Dem-based voters than he was in his primary. And 3, DSA turnout op is very strong. So, like, a lot of people are looking at 2025 and they're going like, oh, the old voters are voting, you know, the same way they did in the primary in 2025. And that's not true. A lot of older voters like Zoran a lot. And so when he's endorsing people, they're going to be like, huh, more of them are going to be open to voting for his candidates. The second thing is, if somebody could be turned out from door knocking and phone calls and texts, they've been turned out. They're leaving everything on the fucking field. And then 3, the national environment, specifically the national environment. In Washington Heights, Randy, 31, said he backed Mamdani, endorsed Daralisa Chavier. I cannot speak French. Chavier. Why is my what? Chavier. Okay, I tried. God damn, French is hard. Over incumbent, Adriano Espaillat. Democrats have failed us, so kick them all out. She backed the challenger because of immigration and housing.
I'm thinking of what are the strategists thinking? How's that going to affect turnout tomorrow, do you think?
I think people are going to be really excited across our city to show up and vote for an incredible slate of candidates to usher in more leaders like the mayor who are going to fight against an affordability crisis and who are going to deliver for the city.
If the voters decide different, is this a matter of the voters being wrong or what?
And the voters are never wrong, yeah.
Okay.
Valet. Chavelet. I tried. Mike is in his suit era. Hassan is starting a swag revolution. Okay, dude. I was in the suit. Have you seen my early streams? I was Mr. Button Down. Like, go to my oldest clips. I'm sure I was Mr. Button Down. He's just copying my swag. He's jacking my 2019 swag. Chavelet. Chavelet. I tried. Do you think the rain will help or hurt? It's going to be marginal.
Fair enough. We agree on that for sure. Maurice Katz, thanks so much for coming by. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you, Bazaar. All right. So Daralisa posted a video I wanted to show you because it was so fucking disgusting that it actually made me mauled.
I wish in the final days of this, I have been hit Haitian, a coordinated wave of lies about my identity, my faith. Espaillat standing at lies, slinging rape. People are reaching out, demanding to see my tired, racist trope. Every black who dares to. We saw a similar campaign last when Andrew Cuomo went over his, and we all watched Donald Trump racist birther against President. So I have to ask, why is a supposed progressive following the same steps to famed electeds like Cuomo? And he's not new to this. This is what he does. Espaillat and his machine have resurfaced and carried out this playbook time and time. I, quite frankly, refused to allow it to continue to. He did this to Charlie Rangel by claiming that his Latino supporters were traitors to the Latino community, and they did it to Senator Robert Jackson, another black man, for daring to run in what they called a Dominican. I am proudly Dominican. I am a proud Black woman. I'm running for a district that is home to Black and Caribbean and Dominican who have built this community together. And the smear campaign against me is not, that is racist, dressed up and unleashed by my opponent, because he has nothing else. He can't run on his dedicated community, and he can't answer for his 9 years of abandonment. So instead, he's trying to pit us against you, because a fractured electorate is the only kind that he can still win. But here's what he's up. Harlem and Washington Heights have been family for generations. Black New Yorkers and Dominicans have lived side by side for generations. We eat together, we pray together, we raise our kids, and many of us carry both of those ideas, including me. And we won't stand for it. And while he sows divisions through his surrogates, his canvassers, and his support, he is taking money from the landlords raising our rent, from ICE contractors kidnapping our neighbors in churches, in schools, and hospitals, and from right-wing lobbies like AIPAC that bankroll genocide and supported efforts to overturn. That is who he's fighting for, not us. But I'm not afraid of hate masking. I will never stop fighting the right thing to do. I want to represent. I will never stop fighting for.
I phone banked for Darlisa last night. Was my first time phone banking. I was really nervous at first and fumbled a bit in the beginning, but got better after a few calls. It was great, even though my last call was with liberal Zionists who said me and Darlisa were anti-Semitic. I don't think I should, I don't want to, I don't think that I should talk to Zionists, because I would just be like, you're going to hell. The hatred that people have for Zionism has created such a psychic wave that hell, if it previously did not exist, will exist for you. Like, we're literally manifesting hell with our psychic energy because of how evil Zionism is. The universe is manifesting hell just for Zionists to go there.
And I want to represent I want to build power for you, and I want to
I tried my hand at phone banking as well, and some Zoomer did the hi, welcome to Shitty Walk, South Park bit. I hate my fucking chud life. You just gotta roll with the punches, bro. Dan Goldman's political death rattle is pathetic. He got banned for a coffee shop for being a ghoul and is now trying to make it a civil rights case. Yeah, he's gonna work with Donald Trump to try to get this innocent coffee shop railroaded for a civil rights violation. We'll talk about that.
Tear down every barrier that has ever been put between you and the life that you deserve. And I want us to do it together. Because tomorrow, on June 23rd, we have a choice. Do we want more cynicism and hate congressman who shares donors with Donald Trump while abandoning his own community? Or do we want a fighter in office that will not be intimidated by and will always put the needs of working? The choice is yours.
There are stories of voters being afraid to go vote because of the aggressive nature of his team. God, I wish I was in New York. God, I wish I would go to if I was in New York, I would go down to the most aggressive polling precinct immediately.
Hi, good afternoon. We're here for DARI for Congress. Buenas, estamos aquí para DARI que está postulando para Congreso. Buenas, estamos aquí para DARI que está postulando para Congreso. Esta aquí está apoyada por el alcalde. Ellos dicen que es dominicana, y eso es mentira.
Nosotros no estamos diciendo que ella no es dominicana. Nosotros estamos diciendo que ella es antidominicana. Yo no he dicho que ella no es dominicana. No me ponga cosas en mi boca que yo no he dicho.
Buenas, estamos aquí para DARI que está postulando para Congreso. Buenas, estamos aquí para DARI que está postulando para Congreso.
I mean, this is not surprising at all. Like, you have to understand, there's something called the urban growth regime, which is an under-discussed idea about American socio-political reality, is that a lot of these deep blue districts, they have Republican fascist Democrats in them who are aligned completely with suburban Republicans. So they use their district, like they will, present as a Democrat or as progressive or whatever, but in reality, they serve nothing more than as like an occupying political force that absorbs this energy of these downtrodden communities and refocuses it in ways that help and assist the status quo. And that's what he is. He's a comprador. And so this kind of shit, like, what, again, trying to stoke racial tension, denying her Dominican identity, calling her Haitian, trying to say that she is, X, Y, and Z threat to the community. This is their only strat. Because what are they going to do? Talk about her policy to raise the minimum wage? What are they going to do? Talk about her policy to have Medicare for all or improve childcare or whatever? No, of course not. They have to make it about these tribal identities. And like, you're forced into this situation to either, if you ignore it, then it seems like they have a point. But if you confront them, you're raising the temperature and you're being distracted from talking about your issues. They force you into that kind of space. And, you know, one of the things that the left used to have and used to be needed was to have what was basically a community defense organization. And if somebody tries to do that, the community defense organization shows up and it physically confronts, you know, face to face, the racial agitators. While you, as the campaign and the independent, you know, as the canvasser, you can go about your business, not be involved. So like, that's the necessary element that I think a lot of lefties are not ready for. They're not really like, they're not even aware that that's a necessary, unfortunately, part of a growing left-wing movement. You can't just be talking about ideas and words, because they're not going to let you do that. They're going to try to attack your physical safety. So you need to be prepared for that reality. And this is something like what you're seeing here is the last stage before they lose.
Mejoraron ese año, después de años que tiene poder. Necesitamos a alguien, tú sabes, nuevo, pero no me paso. Necesito a alguien. Mira, oh, tú y eso, mira, hablando de que es haitiano, mira. Me dice mentira, es dominicano y he pasado días diciendo cosas racistas. Sí, sí, yo sé que está así.
Coño, si la gente no lo quiere, tú no puedes hacer esa.
Sí, gracias.
What a queen. And she's battling. She's out there battling. What a fucking queen, dude. What a fucking queen.
Mira, yo he pasado días aquí diciendo que ella es dominicana. Dicen mentira, ella es dominicana. Su padre es dominicano, su padre.
So again, they're you know, if you know anything about, you know, the Dominican Republic Haiti thing, there's a real it's almost a stereotype. I'm a white guy, so it's not really my place to talk about this like you know, I don't have firsthand experience. I just have, you know, knowledge from seeing this stuff play out. I'm not a member of those communities, but there is this kind of almost stereotype about how Afro-Latino Dominicans distance themselves viciously away from Haitian identity. So what they're doing is really like old school, like self-loathing racial hatred bullshit. It's actually disgusting. And this is what Democrat centrists are like.
Actually experienced something that I'd never experienced before. I almost saw a bunch of cops escort someone out. But before the cops came, he left on his own volition, but he was very mad. That was strange. Also on the flight over here, we got on the flight, putting our bags in, and there was this guy behind me. He was an Orthodox rabbi with, you know, with a cool hat bag and everything. And he went, "Wow, Hassan, I love your content." And at first I was like, I almost got a little bit of whiplash. Damn, okay, respect. Turns out he was a fan.
There is a, you know, again, this is intra-Jewish stuff, which, again, I'm not Jewish, so it's not necessarily the best source, but I'm better than every other streamer on it. So there is a strain of Orthodox Judaism who sees Zionism as heretical behavior, as basically trying to subvert God's intent. And they completely disagree with what's happening to Palestinians. They think it's a violation of human dignity. So it's, of course, they're going, you know, those people are going to like Hassan because they oppose Zionism.
So yeah, I got Orthodox rabbi fans out here. No, he wasn't Neterai Karda.
Was he just regular Orthodox?
Yeah, we got W Motion. We got W Motion, fam. In any case, got on the flight, took a NyQuil.
And like, if you want to see actual anti-Semitism, there's a good post from Matt Iglesias. Everybody, I never thought I'd see the day. But there was an actual good post from Matt Iglesias.
Vance sent a warning to the Jews. He said, watch out. Trump's your daddy, too.
Can you imagine if Zohran Mamdani said that? Or like a supporter of Zohran, if I said that? Absolutely insane. Which brings us to today, which is Breaking Points had on this morning, Claire Valdez and Daralisa on their show.
We know that the kind of media establishment is going to say after this election, win or lose, this will be some referendum on Zoran. But the stakes are high for the working class. You know, these races are about, are we going to be able to set the tone for the Democratic Party in the years going forward? Are we going to be able to elect, you know, organizers who will stand up against a genocide as it's happening, will call for the end of U.S. complicity in that genocide, will fight for the working people in our communities who are struggling against an affordability crisis, are struggling against ICE, are struggling to lead lives of dignity under a fascist administration. Can we change the direction of the Democratic Party, and can we win back the working class of this country? You know, that's really what's at stake in this election. We are here to prove that the election of Zohran Mamdani was not some flash in the pan. It wasn't a fluke. This is a movement. It is a strong and durable movement of working people who are tired of being told to wait, who are tired of being told that Democrats are fighting for us when they're just not. So we really, what's at stake right now is incredibly important. If you believe in these races, if you want to see us succeed, if you want to see this movement succeed, you know, there are a lot of opportunities to come out to volunteer, phone bank. It's a rainy day in New York City. People are going to be at home. Now's the perfect time to call them and ask for their vote plans. And we have a world to win. It doesn't end on June 23rd. It continues long after, but these races are an essential part of organizing working class people in New York City to demand exactly what we're owed from the bosses and the billionaires who are trying to rain on our parade right now. And when organized people come together, we win.
I am like so excited for them because they represent something that we haven't had the opportunity to have. Actual left-wingers that are going to have prominence within our movement from the jump and help push Zohran and AOC further to the left.
You know that the kind of media establishment is going to say after this election, win or lose, this will be some referendum on Zohran. But the stakes are high for the working class. You know, these races are about, are we going to be able to set the tone for the Democratic Party in the years going forward? Are we going to be able to elect, you know, organizers who will stand up against a genocide as it's happening, will call for the end of U.S. complicity in that genocide, will fight for the working people in our communities who are struggling against an affordability crisis, are struggling against ICE, are struggling to lead lives of dignity under a fascist administration. Can we change the direction of the Democratic Party, and can we win back the working class of this country? You know, that's really what's at stake in this election. We are here to prove that the election of Zohran Mamdani was not some flash in the pan. It wasn't a fluke. This is a movement. It is a strong and durable movement of working people who are tired of being told to wait, who are tired of being told that Democrats are fighting for us when they're just not. So we really, what's at stake right now is incredibly important. If you believe in these races, if you want to see us succeed, if you want to see this movement succeed, you know, there are a lot of opportunities to come out to volunteer, phone bank. It's a rainy day in New York City. People are going to be at home. Now's the perfect time to call them and ask for their vote plans. And we have a world to win. It doesn't end on June 23rd. It continues long after, but these races are an essential part of organizing working class people in New York City to demand exactly what we're owed from the bosses and the billionaires who are trying to rain on our parade right now. And when organized people come together, we win.
I think this is like the really big message of the moment. Now, I'm coming in tonight optimistic, right? I'm coming into the night optimistic. And the reason why is because DSA did not take these races for granted. They did not say, oh, yeah, we got the, you know, they were like, we are not at the same level as we were with Zohran. Oh, my God. And they went and they hit the panic button to get everybody fired up. Right. But that was completely unrealistic the entire time. Of course, it was going to feel that way. Of course, they were going to be behind Zohran's like national campaign that had everybody around the world talking about it. There were stories on French TV about Zoran Mamdani's race. All right. So it was always going to be, less attention than that. But it's actually not that much less. It's surprisingly good.
There are a
Let's
bunch
watch
of
the
big
whole thing.
primary contests in New York City. That is happening tomorrow. Zoran Mamdani, the
Am I
mayor.
going to be live tonight? Unlikely, chat. Unlikely. The reason why am I unlikely to be live? Well, it'll either be super late when we get the results, right? And like, would you rather be watching the Hassan live stream for like the victory party? Like, what are we like? You know what I mean? Like, that'll be more fun. Like, what are we saying? And then I can analyze the results in the morning. I could be the numbers guy. Like maybe I might even go to like a victory party for LADSA, a watch party they're doing. Numbers guy.
Of that city has endorsed a slate of candidates, and two of those candidates who have garnered his endorsement join us now. We have Claire Valdez, who is running in a Brooklyn and Queens Center district, and we also have Daria Liza Avila Chevalier, who is running in Northern Manhattan district, where I actually used to live. So know the area quite well. Great to see you, ladies.
Good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. So, Claire, let me start with you, and then Daria Liza, just also get your response. How are you feeling going into Election Day? What do you see as the key issues coming down the stretch here?
I'm very excited. It's been a long campaign, but, I think the stakes are really high tomorrow. The stakes are high for the entire working class. We have the chance to elect some really amazing.
The other thing that I want to say before Claire gets into it is if we win, we're holding these seats forever. Like, you guys, like, if we win this, these are ours for decades. Like, they're going to be national political figures forever. So these guys are like, the establishment is in desperate defense mode. But if we win this, they're done. They're cooked.
Congress members who will be out in front, standing for the working class, fighting for a free Palestine, fighting for an affordable New York, and really doing incredible organizing in Congress, but on the ground here in New York City. So I'm excited. People are talking a lot about the cost of housing. My district in New York 7, it's Brooklyn and Queens. It's overwhelmingly a tenant district, and people are really feeling the crunch of rising rents. People are also outraged by the continuing genocide in Gaza. And so there are a lot of issues motivating people right now to go to the polls, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Daria Liza, how about for you?
Also feeling just incredible energy here on the ground. And it's just been such a privilege and an honor to be able to build a campaign that is responsive to the working people of this district. I've had people thank us for running because this is the first time that they have felt in over 9 years that someone was fighting to actually represent the interests of the working people who live here. And I think for so many of us, we have been told that a politics of cynicism was all that could exist. And to be able to present a vision where we're fighting for housing for all that is actually deeply affordable and dignified for the people who live here, making sure that we're fighting to abolish ICE so that we don't have to live under the terror of this institution, and to make sure that we are using our resources to invest our tax money in our babies here at home instead of on bombs abroad that are destroying.
I mean, that messaging is incredibly popular. Now, one of the things that somebody like, a Bada Panada or any of a number of really disgusting, fake leftists will say is like, oh my God, I can't believe Americans are like, they're talking about how they should be spending their own money on helping their own people instead of bombs. And they're not saying destroy America, and frog march all, Western whites into concentration camps. I can't believe they're not saying that. And it's like, how is this the niche that you found for yourself? This was you. This is you. Hold on. Did we ever add? Oh no. Did we ever add the BE I endorse Bernie Sanders for president?
You don't have the answers of how freedom works.
You don't have the answers for how freedom works. Damn. Wild. Mods, did you add that to the Central Committee or no?
What?
Be moderate. Moderate these fucking nuts.
Mike from PA, enemy of the show.
Damn, what was that, Dan? Was that Dan saying? Yeah, Dan was saying how I have a couple K, viewers. That's wild. Because like, whenever an Ethan Klein member in an Ethan Klein orbiter tries to stream on Twitch, it doesn't go well. You know, so when I have like 4 or 5K concurrence, they're like, well, he has a couple K. They can't. What is AB's account? I thought it was Star Killer, but maybe it's not.
Communities. We need to be able to build affordability here in the city.
Look at this. 56% of civilians killed by explosives in 2025 globally were killed by Israel. Yeah. I mean, it's AB Star Killer. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to check and see how his stream was doing. Wild. Peak viewers 53,000. What was he botted? Did he get botted or something? Like what happened there? Is this the H3 guy? Yeah, this is AB Star Killer. This is Ethan Klein's footstool. 61 streams in 90 days. God damn, he has no fans. Holy fucking hell. Also, look at that bot follower bump. Guys, he just got 3K followers in one day out of nowhere. I guess he wanted to get above 50K for the ego, you know? Had to get back above 50K. Yeah, he was so close. So close to 50K. So close. And then he started falling off. Look at that negative follower growth. Follow bot purchase. Up to 50,555. Damn. All right, where were we?
So the first interaction that constituents potentially have with Daria Lisa is a mailer that they receive or a TV ad that they watch. And in those TV ads, they'll present her as a crazy person. They'll be like, oh, she said, fuck Kamala Harris. She's like awful.
If Daria Lisa loses, the only, like, I would say it goes back to saying fuck Kamala Harris. Like, if there's any, like, that would honest to God be the reason. Because it's like, as a person who dislikes Kamala Harris's campaign and was incredibly enraged by her in November, normie Dems don't like that. Normie Dems don't like if you are mad at Democrats for not fighting hard enough. What about the lack of AOC endorsement? I mean, yeah, that too. I think the racialized attacks being spread by SPACEX are contributing a lot too. I mean, that is certainly, like, listen, that's a reactionary tactic and it works like a charm on every race, right? So we'll see. We'll see how the racialized attacks do. I don't think they're going to work. I think they would be effective in a general election, but I don't think they're effective in a primary. The type of people that show up and vote in primaries tend to be more educated, more engaged, more politically aware. These kind of like racialized attacks are better for like a much higher turnout general election, lower propensity, lower information, more, you know, a general audience. And I just don't think it's going to have motion, but we'll see. We'll see, you know, we'll see.
She's, you know, she wants to release like rapists into the streets or whatever the fuck, right? Just like unbelievably psychotic bullshit. If you phone bank and you call people up in this district, which is what you will be doing because tomorrow is election day, you have an opportunity to talk to these people and convince them that what they saw is bullshit. Okay? You have an opportunity to be like, yeah, the guys that are spending all this money are pro-Israel. They want to keep taking your tax dollars and they want to keep spending it on Israel. Daria Lisa wants to spend it on you. Okay? She wants to spend it on public housing. You can be that change. You can be that person. You can be that person who ends up convincing someone to go out and vote and literally be the vote that changes the outcome of this race. You have to think about it like that. There are plenty of people right now in Harlem, in this district, in New York 13, that may have seen a mailer, okay? Daria Lisa phone bank lead here yesterday. During the 2 shifts I led, we had 16 volunteers total. Chat, please RSVP. Yeah. So here's how it goes. There's probably older renter voters out there, okay? Older voters who are in public housing.
Well, I mean, the establishment Dems, their base is boomer people in public housing in New York. Like that is the base of the establishment in New York. Like everybody knows that, right? Like you're nobody's confused by that. Like that's exactly. Mike, sell me the cheese. I need grilled cheese. I don't think you could afford me making a grilled cheese. Honestly, I don't think you could afford me, man. You seem kind of broke.
And they may have received a mailer that says Daria Lisa is this or that. Daria Lisa hates Kamala Harris, right? But if you are calling them up today and you're telling them like, that's all bullshit. And the reason why they're attacking her is because she wants to make sure that you don't get fucking gentrified. You don't get kicked out of your housing.
Jules, if you're going to take a screenshot of me wearing the suit, you should take one where like you could see the tie, the microphone is out of the way, I'm sitting up, not when I'm hunching over like this. You know what I mean? Like I'm just a tip. Just a tip. Like, come on, man. Not retweeting that.
That your housing is protected, right? That person.
The first person I spoke to phone banking yesterday was like, isn't she Haitian? SMH. Did you say, no, she's Dominican? And they're just saying that racist ass shit because this guy loves Israel. You got to make your background more like a studio. It's a fucking amazing studio.
Person is going to be a lot more likely to go out and vote. Every vote matters. So it's an opportunity to set the record straight. And that is a much more powerful tool to convince people.
Like taking screenshots when I'm doing Ethan Klein posture. It's like, what the fuck? Or I'm like looking off. Or I have like my mustache is like all twisted up. It's like, bro, come on. The most important thing, chat, it isn't just the pants, right? It's the socks, which you don't deserve, feet. Honestly, I'm not even at 6,000 subs. I'm not showing you guys my fucking feet. I'm not like what the fuck? Like the subs have been dry as fuck. Less compliments, more fucking subs. Like, I love the suit, sub gift. That'll make me wear it more.
Than a fucking mailer is. It's the only effective means of combating this barrage of misinformation. That's it. They give you a script. It's super easy. I've done it. And there are certain talking points that they give you. And you actually, if you join right now, if you sign up right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Soviet Cranberry, Posh Keta, thank you for the 5. We are dangerously close to a hype train.
On the Zoom
Alexandra,
call,
thank you for
they
the
will
5.
train you on how to speak with people and how to talk to people. They give you phone numbers. It's an automated process. Okay. It's super simple. It's a lot easier than you think. You might have anxiety, speaking on the phone or whatever. You might be worried, but it's honestly a super simple process. It's unbelievably easy. It's actually kind of fun too. It's like, it turns into a game.
It's Snowflake Ninja. Thank you so much for the 10. iPhone bank for Oliver Larkin. It's really easy and streamlined. Oh yeah, it's super easy. I think one of the things
It's even better if you're a Spanish speaker as well.
One of the things that's super awesome is that our politics are just surging. And all of the naysayers, all of the kind of pathetic losers that hang around a successful politic, they have no motion, right? Like they have no goals, they have no motion. They just exist to chirp. And this is what separates us from them. Like we are literally taking the fight to AIPAC's home turf, and we're taking state power away from them. That is something that can literally change the facts on the ground.
And we do that by making sure that our children can lead dignified lives, making sure that we can have dignified homes, and making sure that we have pathways to citizenship for so many in this community who are just very fearful right now.
Both of you, as well as Brad Lander, who's running the New York's 10th district, are kind of running on a Mayor Mamdani-backed slate in the city. And Mamdani is currently getting a lot of criticism for some comments that he made at a rally where he hit AIPAC for moving dark money into races behind vehicles that don't have kind of AIPAC's name on them. I want to play those comments, then kind of get your reaction to it. Let's roll Zoran Mamdani.
For whom the only thing more frightening than democracy being allowed to run its course is an end to genocide and Netanyahu's wars. They move millions in dark money to accomplish a single goal.
To
preserve their power so that they can turn us against one another. Instead of our leaders turning towards the moral change we all know to be necessary. In a politics that for too long has asked working people to lower their expectations, to settle for less,
so much for subscribing.
to become satisfied with small victories while our wages grow even smaller and our costs grow even larger. To resign ourselves to resignation, to accept the unacceptable.
On the wall on YouTube.
In the wealthiest city, in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we need not live in fear of monsters any longer.
And for the context there, he started that clip by referring to that famous Gramsci line where they say the old world, where he says the old world is dying, the new has yet to be born. In the middle is
my chat, and then you get forever just banned.
That's actually a good point. I can ban you guys from Charter Street.
Anyway, I hope you have a beautiful day / night. Look at how beautiful Mike looks. I love your little suit.
Yeah, I like this. Yeah, we're suiting up
Suave.
for election.
Election day. I hope all of you are wearing suits and not, or just sitting there in your pants.
It's funny, chat can't hear it, but Mike has a really nice chair that squeaks. It squeaks as if it's from the 1980s.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting
your chair. Barney socks. Oh my God, those are awesome. Show stream.
No, they don't.
Oh no, they don't deserve your socks.
Whoa.
Oh, Harmuzzy. Look at that. That's a legend.
Not enough feet.
Keep subbing.
Not enough. I told them they're not.
I'm not sub.
And then suddenly.
Also, Mike's cats are so cute. Have you guys had the privilege? You had the privilege. You guys have been good and nice. Yeah. Six has been sleeping with us every night. Yep. All right. What a slide. Hello, Sharon Carter. Hi, Carter.
Partner. I got a first-time chatter that said partner. That has to be.
Yes.
Fatal?
That has to be.
Yeah, Fatal's like.
All right. Well, have a good day, guys. Love you so much.
Thanks for popping in. I'll have to do a interview at some point with you guys this week. Mike from Discount Suits. LOL. Hell no. Hell no. Hell no. All right, let's keep
Time
going.
of monsters. And so
Hi,
the
Carter.
criticism has been that he's calling AIPAC and then replacing AIPAC with Jewish New Yorkers monsters who are moving dark money around. How has that affected the campaign? And can we get you each to respond to that criticism?
I personally think it's bigger than just AIPAC. I think it's also a lot of money that's coming from corporations and
Oh, I mean, that's also a really important factor. Like, I know a lot of us fixate on AIPAC because it is obviously the front of fascism and collaboration within the Democratic Party. There's no doubt about it. But there's also crypto money. There's also AI money, data center money. There's also other capitalist money. Like, they're all moving in the same way. They're all allied. So it's not just Israel. Israel is just the most obvious, where it's a foreign country. They have no connection to us at all. And they're taking hundreds of billions of dollars out of our country to commit a genocide abroad. It's very clear. The type of people that would take that money are disgusting. The type of people that would openly defend those people's interference in our democracy are disgusting.
And
all right, chat, we're at 5763 subs. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is an opportunity that you're not often going to get. I really need you to understand that this opportunity in New York City is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And if we succeed, that will spin even further once in a lifetime opportunities. But if we fail, it's going to curtail the possible futures that we could have. So we need to leave every single thing out on the field today. If you have time, phone bank. If you have time, door knock. Join text banks. If it comes down to one vote, let it be your vote. Let it be your phone call, your door knock, your text bank that actually swings the election in our favor. I want us to feel like whatever happens tonight, we did everything we could. I want to gift my son Jamal a sub, but you banned him a week ago for saying Mike brags too much and the mods haven't got back to him. Oh, there is no getting back. If I ban you, you're pretty much cooked. I have a very high bar for banning. So if I ban you, you're pretty much cooked. It's not like Hassan where there's like a process for coming back. If you decide, like if I decide one day to be nice, then I'll be nice, but there's nothing you can do.
Lobbies that are having an outsized impact on our democracy, and one where the only
no rehabilitative justice. I do that process. I communicate things along the way. I time people out. you have a very long rope. What you're doing is very normal attention seeking behavior. One of my favorite things is, bro, you're 40 years old. You're 40 years old. You want my attention. You're 40 years old. You created your Twitch account 12 years ago, which means there's definitely clips. I've never seen a color like your skin tone.
Holy shit.
This is like the next Nosferatu film. You should hit the casting call, bro. Anything else? Mr. Pocket Sand, Asmongold. Ghastly. Ghastly.
tool that we have as working people is to out-organize it. in my race in particular, there is over $7 million in outside spending being spent to smear me and deeply racist rhetoric. And my opponent has had folks, surrogates, go do media tours in the Dominican Republic to engage in a disinformation.
Honestly, I appreciate that guy coming, because there is something that you should say. Like, one of the things you need to understand is for some people, it's not going to get better, right? Like, for some of our enemies, they're just, they're going to hit 45. They're going to look back on their life. They're going to realize they're out of time. They're never going to achieve anything. They're never going to have a family. For some people, it just doesn't get better. It's harsh, but it is true. Luckily, all of you that are here, you have an opportunity to join into a movement that can literally help us change the world for the better. Think about how many people in history have lived in a moment, a hinge point, where their individual effort might make a difference. Do you understand how incredibly lucky we are? Since the rise of the Homo sapiens sapien, you have the chance, from the comfort of your living room or your couch or your computer chair, to help change the world.
Campaign that is not only...
I just found out I got banned in Cinemarx's chat, and I never even chatted his channel. Can you show the deleted IG post for me? Are you talking about his Lolita posts? Or are you talking about him posting black caricatures? Which Instagram post of Cinemarxism are you talking about? If you want to link it, we can flash it on the screen real quick. Angry Joe Show is being attacked by incels Neon X6 for going against anti-woke. Send me the link. You look awful and disgusting. I mean, listen, like, he's still in the same... He's a 40-year-old man who still has the mindset of, like, an embarrassing 15-year-old, right? Like, guys, my video games are bad because women exist. Instead of them giant corporations are turning them into live service games with infinite gambling and pay to win and crunch, and releasing games while they're buggy as fuck, and then firing all the people that actually make the game after it's released. He focuses on some indie game that's about a woman's experience being raped or immigrants trying to make it, to America. And he has some sort of meltdown as if that's destroying gaming, and not the fact that Donald Trump has created a fucking memory crunch for his AI scam bubble, companies that don't have any actual output that's of any value to any human being. It's like an embarrassment. Like, fuck, even trading card games, those are just slot machines. Like, the way that these games make money. Like, I like Magic the Gathering, but the way Magic the Gathering makes money is, it's not because the game is amazing. It's because they force you to buy a bunch of packs, and they have, good cards are artificially scarce. And every time you crack a pack, that's like pulling a lever on the slot machine. Is that gambling? Absolutely. Is it probably the least harmful gambling? I mean, yeah, but it's still hooking into the same dopamine factory, the same mechanism of addiction, and they are profiting from the scarcity of the good cards. Like, that's problematic, man. That's making gaming less about technical play or even chance and more about your wallet, and they profit.
Just so deeply divisive and racist, but also one that has really continued more of the politics.
Can't give that guy attention, probably plugging his beat for the most attention he's gotten in years. Oh, it's funny though. We've already won. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a level 11 hype trade. We're at 5798, 2 subs away from 5800. Supporting the stream by subbing, resubbing is amazing. Thank you so much, Snowflake Ninja, for the 20 gifties. You guys are the best.
Cynicism that we are fighting against, where instead of talking about the fact that housing is unaffordable in this district, they're talking about, just disinformation about my identity and about where my family comes from, rather than talking about how we need to abolish ICE, how we need to invest our tax dollars in our children here, where we have a childhood poverty rate of over 40%. They're forcing our volunteers to have to engage in de-escalation because their camp is getting aggressive with folks. And I think it really is it's really hard to see how so many people have come into this campaign because they're building a politics that invests in hope and invests in life, and see them wanting to focus on that, but then having to question, can I stay on this corner and continue to canvass safely? And, you know, I think we're seeing a lot of, what's appalling to me, a lot of MAGA-style tactics coming from a Democratic incumbent that has been not only, you know, concerning for the safety of our volunteers, for the conversation that we're supposed to be having right now around affordability in the city, but also seeing the way that money is coming into this campaign to prevent folks from talking about the issues that actually impact the day-to-day lives that they lead here.
Claire, let me get your reaction to Josh Gottheimer, if we can put F3 up on the screen. This is the flavor of criticism that Zoran, quote, received. He says, monsters, quote, dark money, a hidden hand turning us against one another.
Matt, thank you for the 5. Major Tom, thank you for the 5. Can't even rage, mate. Thank you guys so much for all the support. You guys rule.
Swap AIPAC for Jews, and it's the oldest anti-Semitic conspiracy theory in the book.
But it's not. We didn't say Jews. You know, like if I say fuck Nazis, I hope they all, you know, get squished. That's not anti-Semitic. If I say fuck AIPAC, that's not anti-Semitism. Just like it's not anti-black racism to criticize the Republican Party because a few black Republicans exist. That's not how anything works.
That's not criticizing a lobby. That's laundering anti-Semitism from your podium as mayor of a city with more than 1 million Jews. This bullshit is dangerous. Did you have any issue with the comments that Zoran made at that rally? And what is your response to Representative Gottheimer here?
You know, what the mayor is talking about is super PACs, you know, cropping up at the 11th hour to dump millions and millions of dollars in not just these races, but in races across the country. That's what we're taking on right now. We're taking on corporate greed. We're taking on, you know, a lobby that has been upholding and supporting a genocide in Gaza now for 2.5 years, that has kept so many Democrats silent because they're worried about a donor base, rather than worrying about human liberation and the dignity of human lives here in our communities and abroad. The mayor's calling that out, and I think we have to. You know, what we, and I know Dari, Lisa, and I have both experienced this, is a profoundly undemocratic system in which the very wealthiest people, the most powerful corporations, can dump money into these elections, smear candidates who are running grassroots campaigns like we are, and really and turn the issues away from, again, you know, the things that people really care about in these districts: housing, good union jobs, you know, fighting for a Green New Deal, the things that really matter to people's lives. And instead turn these into campaigns that are about who has the most money. You know, we're running really grassroots campaigns. My campaign has now knocked 300,000 doors across New York 7 with 4,000 volunteers. And we have to kind of, you know, take on these corporate interests that have derailed these campaigns and made them about things that are not relevant to our districts, and really fight and center the working class again.
And sorry, can I also just add, sure. I think something that gets lost often is that AIPAC is a right-wing lobby. It backs Republicans. Right. Exactly. It backs Donald Trump. It is pushing us towards war that nobody in this country wants. And to have Democrats accept money from a right...
It's about people giving hate to Supergirl for no reason. Okay. Thank you for the Supergirl update. We'll get to it.
Right-wing lobby is deeply concerning, because how are we supposed to fight back against the fascism of Trump when we have a right-wing lobby that is also funding Democrats and incumbents? And I think, you know, if we are serious about taking our democracy back, if we're serious about creating a Democratic Party that the working class can actually identify with again, then we have to call out the way that right-wing lobbies are putting money into this election. And again, these are values that most Jewish New Yorkers here actually vehemently disagree with.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and just to be clear for the viewers, Gottheimer there was talking about AIPAC moving dark money, and particularly in Daria Lisa's district, Adriano Espiat, his supporters set up a PAC called Bold America PAC, which appeared to be linked to kind of Bold PAC, which is related to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, which he shares. But then AIPAC's Super PAC sent millions of dollars into that PAC, and then it's spent as if it was this other PAC. Right. So they are actively engaging in the politics of dark money and then objecting when it's called dark money. The other The other fissure that has really hit this campaign is around kind of race and gentrification. I'm curious for both of your reaction to this. Antonio Reynoso, your opponent, Claire, has been saying, he doesn't even feel comfortable at DSA meetings because it's not representative of the district, and Espaillat has been gone.
Can you imagine going to have you guys ever been to an Indivisible meeting or a Planned Parenthood rally or a gun sense rally, like a gun control rally? Do you think those are representative of the district? Do you think you're going to find the same gender, race, age, and gender balance as the district? Would you ever say, I'm not going to interact with reproductive rights activists or immigration activists or any other activists because their racial makeup is not perfectly representative and their age makeup is not perfectly representative or their gender makeup is not perfectly representative of the district as a whole? That's fucking nonsense. And it's exactly the type of woke one bullshit that's intended to disorganize you and make you stupid.
His supporters have gone kind of way over the top compared to even that. But Claire, I'm just curious for take what is your reaction to this claim that your support is really just organized around kind of gentrifiers?
I mean, I think this movement is about bringing as many people as possible together to fight against bad landlords, against our corporate oligarchy. And what unites us as working people in New York City is the fact that we have to pay high rent. We have long commutes. Our hours are long. Our wages are stagnant. And that affects everyone, no matter if you were born and raised here, if your family was raised here, or if you just arrived. And, this politics of kind of divide and conquer the working class, we've experienced these before. This is like Boss 101. Our campaign is about centering the needs of working people in New York 7, who right now are really feeling the squeeze from all sides. That's why I'm not taking any money from real estate developers, for example, who have pushed so many people of our communities out, have raised our rents, have displaced so many, because I want to fight for tenants. I want to fight for the people who call these neighborhoods our home. And again, the difference that we're seeing right now is not like if you got here 40 years ago, if you just arrived. The difference is, can you afford to live in these neighborhoods? And for so many people right now, the answer is no. So this campaign is, again, we're building a movement within this campaign to unite people across, Brooklyn, Queens, to fight for an affordable New York, to fight for peace and security and dignity for the entire working class, whether you live in Ridgewood or Rafa. And that's something I'm incredibly proud of.
And so just for the audience to understand the race dynamics a little bit more, Claire's running in a district. It's an open seat. Nydia Velázquez is retiring. Her opponent, her main opponent is Antonio Reynoso, who was endorsed by Nydia Velázquez. So that's an open seat. For DARI, she's challenging a Democratic incumbent his name is Adriano Espaillat. And you've referenced a couple of times, DARI, how he's using these sort of MAGA tactics, making some ugly claims about your identity and your family. Can you just explain the dynamics there and your response to what he's been up to and what his campaign has been pushing?
Yeah, absolutely. We know that he has surrogates engaging in these smear campaigns in the Dominican Republic, spreading disinformation and just sowing deep division in this community. And, this question of this gentrification question, where he is complaining about the changing demographics in this district without acknowledging that he has been in power, in political power for over 9 years in Congress, but almost 30 years first in the state legislature and then in the federal government. And so I think it's very rich, actually, to hear someone who has held political power for this long then complain about the impact of his policies on the changing demographics in this district and the electorate. And I think what we're seeing right now is that citywide people are struggling to afford to be able to stay here. And that is part of why I think the demographics are changing. And rather than addressing his record and his role in that change, he is now engaging in a smear campaign that's attacking not any policy that I have proposed, not my platform, but me as an individual, as a human being, where now my team and I were dealing with an onslaught of degrading and dehumanizing rhetoric under all of
these are Israeli bots. These are, without a doubt, Israeli bots that are designed to foment racial hatred. This is like very normal. Like Israel does this all the time. They do it in Lebanon. They do it in Iran. They do it all. Like this is one of their tactics. They do it in Syria. They try to create racial tension, intra like tribal division, racial division. Like they literally, it's an Israeli tactic. So it's not surprising that they're now deploying it in the U.S.
Social media, we are facing, a lot of verbal harassment every time we go out, and our volunteers who are just here to be part of their democracy are also having to think about how to be de-escalatory. And I think, it's just such a deep affront to our democracy, right? To see that kind of MAGA style politics, to discourage people from being part of their own election, right? And make them fearful, that is the antithesis of what a democracy is supposed to be.
DARI, Lisa, the thing that your opponent has really been hitting you on is digging up some of your kind of older, more aggressive ultra tweets. And you've sort of apologized for some of them, explained some other ones. And I'm curious if
ultra tweets, as
you're running for office now, your politics are roughly the same as they were then, but you kind of regret some of the phrasing that in a decontextualized space is difficult for people who aren't as online to understand what's going on, or if your politics have evolved a bit over the past few years. Like how would you describe yourself compared to your kind of previous self to voters?
My values have always been around human dignity, around justice, around accountability. And I think what's changed is that I've just grown, I've matured, my nuance on a number of these things has deepened. But my values are at their core still there. And I think the frustration that I felt when I said a lot of those things is something that is reflective of a failure of our larger systems, where so many people just feel deeply unheard and powerless to engage with our political system. And, one of the things that I've been thinking a lot through this campaign is how, his tactic has been to, one, decontextualize a lot of what I said, but also smear my character and myself as a person, right? Rather than focusing on his record and what he has done to this community and failed to do for this community. And it's more of that politics of distraction, because he knows that he cannot answer to the very basic question that I have posed and I've had the audacity to ask with this campaign, which is what has improved for the lives of New Yorkers here in New York 13 in the 9 years that he has been in Congress, because he can't answer to that.
DARI, Lisa, we have one of the images of one of the mailers that's going around that is based on one of those tweets. This is F4, guys. We can put this up on the screen. It has a picture of you. It says, F Kamala Harris, a real quote from a tweet that she deleted. You were mentioning you felt that some of these sentiments were decontextualized. What was the context when you tweeted this? And how do you feel about that in retrospect? And did you vote for Kamala Harris? How did you think about the dynamics of this past election?
I did. Despite my criticisms, I'm one of those folks who has had to save the Democratic Party from itself, right? One of the many Black and brown people, Black and brown women in particular, who have, deep criticisms of these social systems and yet have to come out and vote to save the Democratic Party from this fascism that we're facing with Trump, right? And in that, if I remember correctly, in that context, I was critical of the language that Vice President Harris was using to tell immigrants to not come into this country. And as someone who's been organizing for immigration justice for most of my adult life, I just find it troubling when folks in power tell some of the most disempowered people in our society, in the planet, right, that they should not be working towards or not be fighting to lead dignified lives for them and their children. And, I do regret the tweet and I regret the language. I think, especially running this campaign and seeing the type of language that people feel so comfortable using against me and against, folks who are supporting me. I think we need to make sure that we are engaging and using language that people can actually hear and receive, right? Particularly when we have strong criticisms, particularly when the stakes are so high. And as an organizer, it's deeply important to me that we are using language that is unifying, that people can feel that they can be brought into, even when they have to face the the hard music of accountability, right? And knowing that like our actions are sometimes fall short, right? But that is what it means to be accountable, is to be able to hear the criticism, move differently, right? And be responsive to community. And one of the things that has really been coming to mind a lot throughout this campaign is the focus on these tweets, right? And I will apologize for them as long as I have to, for folks to understand how deeply regretful I am. And I also have to ask, why is it that my opponent, whose policies, whose votes, whose record has harmed so much of our community, still goes, why his accountability hasn't come? Why is it that he has not answered any of the questions that have been posed to him about his record on arming a country committing a genocide, on making sure that, or lacking the ability to make sure that our tax dollars actually come back home to address?
I generally, you know, anytime you're apologizing, you're losing. It's never a good idea in politics to be apologizing. However, there are a few things that, you know, as I said, they're just losers for you. You know, Democrats they want us to fight Republicans more. That's the problem, right? These guys love Republicans. They're not people that actually give a shit about fighting Republicans, but they use Kamala Harris as a stand-in because she ran against Trump to mean fighting Republicans. So if you didn't like Kamala Harris, that means you were not fighting Republicans. That's the logic chain that they're trying to establish. But this guy sucks off Republicans left and right. He loves AIPAC. So in reality, when it comes down to the brass tacks, the only way to fight the right is actually to support these left-wing candidates, like obviously.
Childhood poverty, the fact that he has taken...
So I think turnout is, first of all, turnout is not low. You've been psyoped. Turnout is not low. You've been psyoped. Okay, like I need everybody to like get their shit together. Comparing this primary for congressional campaigns to the New York City mayoral primary of last year, which was the most important national election happening in the entire country and had billions of dollars of free media, was talked about on every single like political conversation happening in the entire country, and mainstream coverage up and down 24/7, was front page of newspapers across the country. That's of course going to have higher turnout than these congressional primaries in some of the districts, right? And anybody telling you that, like, oh yeah, we were expecting that same turnout, is fucking delusional and stupid. Where you should be comparing the turnout to is 2022, the last midterm election. What was the turnout in primaries in 2022? That's the turnout you should be looking at and saying, is turnout higher? And yes, it's much higher. But that doesn't, you're not going to necessarily know how things are spinning out because, again, this has never happened before. We're not going to be able to divine what's happening because there's no other samples of a similar situation. You're doing what everybody wants to do. You want to be able to look at this situation and look at numbers and go, look, up, number down, that's bad. Number up, that's good. The situation is it's novel. It's complex. And you're not comparing like to like.
Hundreds of thousands from the corporate real estate developers that are pricing us out, while our living conditions are deeply undignified in this district. And so this question of accountability is deeply important to me because we deserve leadership that is accountable to the community here.
Well, I know one of the tweets had to do with you responding to, I think it was Mike Huckabee's encouragement of using corn cobs for toilet paper. And I personally think you should stand by that one. That one I would recommend. No apologies needed. Claire, last question to you here. You started off talking about the stakes of this election day, you know, not only in your district, but in other districts in New York City, and I think really election season across the country. But, you know, Zoran did sort of put his political capital here on the line for the two of you and for Brad Lander. We all know what, you know, sort of mainstream Democrats and establishment types will say if you all are not successful. So just underscore what do you think are the stakes here, and what has it meant to your campaign that Zoran decided to get behind you?
Absolutely. Well, you know, I think we know about the kind of media.
They want to turn you into pundits and make you an observer instead of a participant. That's exactly right. And like, I get it. I'm engaged in that. But I know what I'm talking about a lot more than 99% of people that are just blathering bullshit and they have no basis. And like, even the so-called like numbers election guys, the fact that they think like, oh, the comparing it to the mayoral turnout is some sort of indication of how this race is going is embarrassing, quite frankly.
Establishment is going to say after this election, win or lose, this will be some referendum on Zoran. But the stakes are high for the working class.
Thank you, Chad.
These races are about, are we going to be able to set the tone for the Democratic Party in the years going forward? Are we going to be able to elect organizers who will stand up against a genocide as it's happening, will call for the end of U.S. complicity in that genocide, will fight for the working people in our communities who are struggling against an affordability crisis, are struggling against ICE, are struggling to lead lives of dignity under a fascist administration. Can we change the direction of the Democratic Party, and can we win back the working class of this country? That's really what's at stake in this election. We are here to prove that the election of Zoran Mamdani was not some flash in the pan. It wasn't a fluke. This is a movement. It is a strong and durable movement of working people who are tired of being told to wait, who are tired of being told that Democrats are fighting for us when they're just not. We're going to set the tone for the Democratic Party, and we know that people are watching these races very closely all over the country. They're watching these races to see if they can pour dark money into other against other progressive candidates. They're watching these races to see if standing up against a genocide is a winning message or a losing message, and they will take that to heart. So what's at stake right now is incredibly important. If you believe in these races, if you want to see us succeed, if you want to see this movement succeed, there are a lot of opportunities to come out to volunteer, phone bank. It's a rainy day in New York City. People are going to be at home. Now's the perfect time to call them and ask for their vote plans. And we have a world to win. It doesn't end on June 23rd. It continues long after, but these races are an essential part of organizing working class people in New York City to demand exactly what we're owed from the bosses and the billionaires who are trying to rain on our parade right now. And when organized people come together, we win.
Well, we will put both of your campaign info in the description so people can get involved here in the final days if they are so interested, and really appreciate both of you taking some time out.
Claire's
I know how busy you must be today, so thank you so much for making some time for us.
Thank you both. It was great being here.
Thank you again.
Claire if you like that video. Somebody said, I've heard this so many times. It came out 22 hours ago. You've seen this how many times? It came out 22 hours ago. So the espionage strategy, this is obviously coming from his campaign, is to follow her around and yell that she's Haitian.
Challenge a political machine. And as you can tell, we have pissed a lot of people. A politic that actually serves challenge a
Now listen, chat, I'm not saying you should go and knock that guy out. Like, obviously that would be against the rules of Twitch. I would never advocate for that. I would never advocate that you do that. Obviously you would probably get arrested. That would be a terrible thing to do. But I'm surprised that it hasn't happened. Like, because obviously when people are acting in a way that is just obnoxious and is actually illegal, that's harassment. That is violates, noise ordinance. You can't just go out somebody's house and yell all day. That's fucking weird. You can't go outside somebody's place of business and yell all day, right? So I'm surprised that that has not happened. And I wouldn't want that to happen because obviously her campaign will be blamed. But it is surprising that it hasn't. Somebody was following her around yelling Jew hater. Anytime you have like weirdos, it's usually a good idea to walk away from a weirdo. Again, if somebody's following you and menacing you, well then now, you can, now it becomes a situation of reasonable self-defense. Look at this fucking he's getting paid. You should, again, see the guy with the double phones, just go right in his face and yell, genocider, genocider. You know, that's anything he's doing, you can do and reciprocate. Not a big deal. He's paid shield, guys. It's very clearly an intentional espionage strategy because he's corrupt, and this is kind of like something that organized crime does. Is like they will try to physically intimidate you. The guy's obviously up to his gills in corruption, right? This is New York City, man. But you don't think they've got a few politicians in their pocket? Like, come on.
Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here!
But again, this is just the way that things are going to happen. You know, this is just the way things are going to be. You have to be prepared for it. I know a lot of us here are earnest, good people, good-hearted. We just want to make the world a better place. We just want to stop the genocide in Gaza. We just want to have kids get wholesome food and see the homeless housed. The establishment, the status quo that you see is not an accident. Billionaires and the rich, they make money from the status. I need you to understand that things are fucked up because there are powerful people that are making money off of it, okay? The status quo is not an accident. People see the same problems you do. They're stopped from fixing them by the status quo. So when you come in and you say, we're going to fix this shit, they're going to come after you. They're trying to call Zoran Mamdani an anti-Semite for this.
Now in APEC, they move millions in dark money to a goal. Reserved now.
This is what that freak is yelling. Yeah, this is the guy. Again, absolutely no motion, followed by weirdo scumbags. I guess they follow this guy because he's desperate for attention. 71 likes.
Darlene, why you hate the juice for? Why you hate the juice? Why you hate the Jews? Why you get them Hamas? You hate the Jews. You hate the Jews. You hate the Jews.
71 likes for this shit. You shouldn't have even linked it in my chatter, honestly. Like, it literally we just like 100x'd the number of people that saw that. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Again, this is why people don't run for office. If you're like, oh man, why don't more people run for office? Because you're gonna have to deal with this kind of shit. Not all peaches and cream. Also, I'm sorry. It's like I love it. I'm desperate for it. Like, I want to do it just so I have an opportunity to meet some of these guys in person. Can you imagine meeting Drew Pavlo in person? Oh my God, it would be the best day of my life.
At the rally last week, calling AIPAC monsters who move dark money. These are phrases that invoke old anti-Semitic tropes.
AIPAC are monsters that move dark money, and that's anti-Semitic tropes. Do you see how they call everyone anti-Semitic? And when anti-Zoran streamers like Cinemarxism tried to get me deplatformed for anti-Semitism because I was commenting on a Netanyahu speech to the UN, they're doing the same thing to Zoran. He was also anti-Zoran in the primary, right? But after Zoran won and was going viral, then suddenly he switched up. So when we were doing the fight, nowhere to be seen. But when there's clout to be had, now suddenly he's actually good. Something to keep in mind is that there's this kind of ultra anarchist, whatever you want to call it, unity, co-opt, popular front against anti-Zionist socialists. Isn't that fucking interesting?
Conspiracy theories. What do you say to those who are concerned that the language you used is dangerous?
Now, I want to be very clear. We're talking about a status quo where children are being killed on a daily basis. More than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli military since the so-called ceasefire. Even an Al Jazeera journalist, Ahmed Wishah, was killed this past Saturday by an Israeli strike. And when I am speaking about AIPAC, I'm speaking about an organization that has been supportive of the status quo, that has fought any attempt to actually deliver safety to people, not just in Palestine, but frankly, through much of the region. And it is a status quo for immorality. It is one that I will not accept. And when it comes to the way in which they defend the status quo, oftentimes they defend it through direct contributions, as we are seeing right now in New York 13. Oftentimes they also support the status quo through dark money, by filtering money that would have previously been directly from AIPAC, now through other shell organizations whose identities of their contributors are only made clear after an election. And I think that it is important that when we ask ourselves how such death and destruction is happening overseas, we also name those who allow it to take place.
All right, we're going to go.
What a fucking king, dude. He didn't, again, doubling, you know, letting these guys throw around this shit and be like, that's fucking nonsense. AIPAC does not represent Jews. It represents, it's the American Israel Political Action Committee. It's about influencing our politicians to support Israel no matter what crimes they commit. I'm against that. And so they're spending millions of dollars in dark money donations, oftentimes from Republican billionaires, who they often support outright Republicans like Trump. So it's very simple. If you call that anti-Semitic to call out the facts that are happening, then you're a lying sack of shit and you're being anti-Semitic. Disgusting. And notice this is being published by Midas Touch. The normie spaces, they're leaning into Zoran. His motion is too big. All right, chat. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally have an MSNBC story about these races.
Let's bring into the conversation former Democratic Congressman Tom Malinowski of New Jersey, MS Now reporter.
The guy who got fucking owned? Tom Malinowski who got fucking owned? Why are we talking about the guy who just got his fucking shit ripped?
McDuffie, live from Manhattan's Inwood neighborhood. On set with me is MS Now chief political reporter Chris Jansing. It's great to have all of you this morning.
Retire already. Jesus Christ. Am I an asshole for saying that every reporter is 70 fucking years old or older, and it's like, it gets to be a bit much?
Start with you. These races have pitted Mamdani and his allies against the establishment. Give me a sense, though, about how voters are processing all of it, what the energy is like on the ground right now.
Like, okay, you can get Social Security at 62, but you have to take it at 70, right? You could defer your Social Security and the payment will go, the monthly payment goes up for all the time you defer. You can elect to take it at 62 early, or you can defer it all the way to 70. But at 70, you have to take it. I think if you have to take Social Security, you got to retire from television news. You can come on, I guess, as you know, as a commenter once in a while, but you got to retire. You got to retire out of these jobs.
Antonio, we've seen some voters.
You know, airline pilots are not allowed to fly after they turn 65, right? Like, they forcibly retire airline pilots at 65. I think we should have something similar for television news.
Come here, you know, it's not great weather today, which doesn't bode well for high turnout. And we've seen reports of low turnout compared to last year around the city. Mamdani, though, appeared this morning with one of those socialists endorsed.
The narrativizing is fucking crazy. The reason why they're saying that, there's a purpose of it. They're trying to say, oh, Mamdani doesn't have that much juice. The turnout is lower than last year. Right? Like, that's the implication that they're trying to spread. Instead of like going, okay, let's compare this primary midterm to the last primary midterm for congressional races, because that would be like to like. They don't want to do that. They want to compare it to a different race with a different context because they're trying to lie to you, or they're incompetent. Pick one.
Congressional candidates, Dari Lisa, Avila Chevalier, and he was touting all of his endorsed candidates in his slate. Take a listen.
Dari Lisa is not running against Dan Goldman. They're talking about people making fun of Dan Goldman. This is what Tish Drains I'm not a fan of. But basically, do we have this story? Fuck. Daniel Goldman, who's running against Brad Lander, was kicked out of a coffee shop.
Yeah, it was quite surprising, in part because I had such a nice interaction with the barista in the coffee shop. She was wearing a hijab. I didn't know her, but she couldn't have been nicer and allowed my daughter to go use the bathroom. And I honestly was so grateful for her kindness that I felt like I should buy a coffee. And so I did, and I gave her a large tip. And it was diametrically opposite to that post that I came upon later. And it's a real sad, it's a reflection.
Why did he mention that she was hijabi?
I think of a sad state of affairs that.
Why did he mention that she was hijabi? Can you imagine if I had a confrontation with somebody who had a yarmulke on and I was like, he had a yarmulke? Do you think people would let that fly? Serious question.
Without knowing me, we could have had such a nice...
She knows you. You're a Zionist. You're an evil murderer. You're complicit in genocide. We know who you are. I know you want to distance yourself from your actions, but your actions precede you.
Interaction. Two people, obviously from different backgrounds, different faiths, but that's what America is, and that's what New York City is.
Does anyone have the original post? The whining Rep Goldman complaining. Poetica Coffee says, "Hey Rep Dan Goldman, we see that you stopped by our shop today for a coffee. Do you see how it doesn't taste like genocide juice? Or are you still having a hard time telling the difference? Here at Poetica, we don't serve racists, fascists, homophobes, genocide enablers, or anyone in between. Too bad we didn't recognize you right away, or we would have turned you away. We issued you a refund. We don't need your money. It's probably coming from AIPAC anyways. Enjoy your loss on Tuesday. Don't ever come to Poetica." This sounds like your policies, bro. And they refunded his money. He wasn't even yelled at in person. He was told, "You're banned from our coffee shop because we don't like that you support Israel during their genocide." And Tish James posted about this? This election has seen too many personal attacks. Racism directed at DARI for New York. Online hate targeting Dan Goldman and his staff. Huh? What hate? What hate? I don't know who you are, Cam Higbee, but this is a shockingly pathetic. Is this what we're talking about? Is that what we were talking about? Some right-winger who's harassing some guy who fucking lost? Politics, man. You never know what a congressman is going to tweet. All right. Oh my God, chat.
I think what we have here is an opportunity to elect partners to help fulfill our affordability agenda. I've spoken to New Yorkers time and time again about my focus being the transformation of the nation's most expensive city into one that they can afford. And we can only achieve that if we have partners in Washington. And in Daria, Lisa, in Claire, in Brad, I see those partners.
Now, I asked Mamdani if he personally has anything on the line tonight, and he didn't engage with me on that. But there's no question, Antonia, that he and the Democratic Socialists of America are facing a key litmus test tonight, because Mamdani didn't have to endorse any of these candidates. None of these districts is in jeopardy of falling to a Republican. Democrats are assured of winning it, but he put his political capital on the line. He's rolling the dice with these candidates, two of whom are Democratic Socialists, and we'll have to see exactly how that turns out tonight.
Yeah, Chris, you and I talked about this, how much Mamdani is putting on the line here, staking his reputation, his influence is really being put to the test, whether he wants to comment on that right now or not. Right. But one of the other elements here with Mamdani as this sort of unique political figure that sometimes has drawn comparisons to Trump, I would say, is the sort of turnout factor here. His ability to get voters who would normally stay on the sidelines out in that mayoral race. People are going to be watching today with all this bad weather. Well, what does the turnout ultimately look like? And when Mamdani himself isn't on the ballot, but he has made his partners, his allies very clear, can he still get all those people to the polls?
Yeah, this is the key question, right? Because let's not understate it. When he became mayor, he blew up New York politics, and he had a couple of choices. He could play it safe. His popularity was on the rise. He didn't need to, again, endorse somebody, but he decided not just to endorse 3 candidates, but 2 of them who were running against incumbents who were highly influential. And so when you look at his turnout in early voting, and that's all we can compare, we don't know what voting today is going to be. Last year was 400,000 early in-person voters. This year, 172,000. Now, that might be to be expected.
Okay, let's back that up. Say again.
72,000 just to endorse 3 candidates, but 2 of them who were running against incumbents who were highly influential. And so when you look at his turnout in early voting, and that's all we can compare, we don't know what voting today is going to be. Last year was 400,000 early in-person voters. This
I need you guys to understand how stupid this point is. I need you to understand how stupid this point is.
year, 172,000. Now, that might be to be expected, but over the weekend, and they knew that the
also we haven't had the full count of early in-person voting yet. What I understand, they're going by like partial numbers.
That was low, not just among young voters.
I'm not a Tish James fan. You've never seen me be a Tish James fan.
Because the average age was 57 now.
That was through day 8, not through the full early voting. There was a late surge in day 9 of younger voters. Again, this data is all incomplete and incorrect. This is actually something that happens quite a bit, and you saw it in LA, but like people will take complete voter data, which involves like the entire process, mail-in ballots, early voting, the election day vote, and they'll compare it to partial data that is made up of people who are like, for example, older voters tend to vote earlier, right? More conservative voters tend to vote earlier. So when you take the partial data that doesn't include the entire election, that's going to look more old and more right-wing than the actual voting that has taken place. And when you compare it to a previous year, which is a complete set of data, it's going to look different.
It's 47, so it's gone up 10 years. But just in sheer numbers, that the success that they had in bringing out new voters was critical for him to do what he wants to do.
Which was to outright win a primary against Andrew Cuomo, one of the most famous centrist politicians in the country, who was a two-term governor, who was a national political figure because of the COVID response, and who had the backing of like some of the biggest billionaires in the country. And this race was the only political race in the entire fucking country that everybody was talking about, versus a congressional district in part of the city. You know what I mean? That doesn't have the motion. It will never have the motion of the New York City mayor's race. It just didn't. And by the way, it was record-shattering turnout for the New York City mayor's race. It's a legitimately stupid point.
He wants to do
what they have to fill air, I guess.
Zoran Mamdani wants to do is expand the Democratic Socialist agenda, not just in Albany, New York, because he has also given his endorsements to a number of assembly candidates, but also in Congress.
Tom, I want to get your thoughts on the broader issues at play here that are also driving a lot of the conversation in these races, but also pushing some of the voters who are showing up right now to the polls. Foreign policy, the role of AIPAC, what's happening in Israel and in Gaza, front of mind for many of these voters, a key issue in many of these debates, even in New York 12, where you could argue that that's a race that's much more about AI and other factors than, say, in the Lander-Goldman matchup. But the issue is very much there, and it was there for your race as well. So I want your sort of big picture thoughts here on what New York might be telling us about these issues across the country.
Yeah, well, candidates are being squeezed from both sides on that issue. I was attacked by AIPAC in my race. They spent $2.5 million to defeat me. At the same time, I think with some of these ultra-left candidates, we're seeing the mirror image of AIPAC on Israel, intolerant, unwilling to allow for any middle ground position on the issue. The woman, DARI Chevalier, who was pictured with Mamdani just a moment ago, will not condemn Hamas, which is not a pro-Palestinian position in my view.
This is why you got fucking owned, bro. This is why you're former congressman. You got owned.
It's maybe a performatively pro-Palestinian position, but not the position that a serious person concerned about human rights in the Middle East would take. And that really, really troubles
I really think it's legitimately mentally ill to look at the Palestinians as they're being genocided and exterminated and ethnically cleansed and go, I think you said some problematic things while you were being exterminated. That means you don't support human rights. That's legitimately insane. And when people say that stuff out loud to me, like, I have a hard time even really recognizing them as human. I'm like, so let me get this straight. Somebody killed your kids and you didn't react perfectly well, like without any problematic reaction. It would be justified to condemn you. Is that right?
I think Democrats need to be the party that takes government seriously, the responsibilities of government seriously, not a party of social media shitposters, to put it very, very bluntly, who take extreme positions and who scare off the voters that we actually need to do the most important thing this year, and that's to take back the House.
I don't think anybody's scared. I don't think anybody's scared off, bro. I don't think anybody's scared off. In fact, I think you would be scared if you heard, like, if I honestly think if you campaigned on let's break out the guillotines, you would be more popular than Zionism.
What do you think it means, though, that this younger generation of candidates who have, as you mentioned in the case of Avila Chevalier, these sort of controversial posts in their past, that they're putting up a real fight against these establishment candidates? I mean, Espaillat has served for years. He is a well-known figure in New York politics, deep alliances and ties in his community and beyond. So the fact that she's put up this fight against him, is there a lesson moderate Democrats do.
One of the most prominent DSA rightists, Gustavo. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm just saying he's a very famous I think he's an SMC guy. Like he's one of the major leaders of the SMC in DSA. Gustavo. Am I right? I'm right about that, right? I'm not misremembering. Pretty sure he's I think he's pretty prominent, right? Gustavo's groundwork. Oh, he's even better than I thought. Groundwork is of the two, I'm more of a groundwork guy than an SMC guy. Although I like Mug, I like Sprigs of Revolution, Roses, I like a lot of the caucuses, to be honest with you, which is why I'm uncaucused. I don't feel like any single caucus is really perfectly calibrated. I think there's some problems in every caucus. And so he's a king. He is an incredibly reliable. When he talks about shit, you could pretty much take it as gospel. As far as what the work they're doing, right? So incredibly reliable. So he said last night, we called every Democrat who's ever voted uptown in the last 6 years. What a fucking king. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Ridgewood is Claire's district, right? I know New York kind of well, but not I'm not a New York guy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right. Yeah, it's in there. See? District includes Ridgewood. Amazing. We had some people saying y'all already called me. I'm voting for Dari. Yes, that's gonna happen. Make sure you put them as a one. The thing is, when someone says I'm voting for her, they haven't voted yet. So you have to tell them, listen, until you actually vote, we have to keep trying because you know how it is. We have to get every vote. You want her to win. We want her to win. We're not going to leave any. So will you get up right now and go vote for her? Can you do that? Put some urgency on their ass. If you tell me I voted for her, then we'll leave you alone. I knocked at someone's door yesterday. They've been called to canvas 3 times this week and they got mad. Yeah. That could actually be part of the problem. Is that we're so strong with canvassing and door knocking that it gets to the point where it's it becomes too much. The Hasanabi effect, they moved on to help other candidates from Dari because of how many phone bankers there were. Yes, I know, I agree. I think that he should do more. I'm gonna try to talk to him and be hey, I have an idea of something I'm gonna do. I had to get this off my chest. Shame on Adriana Espaillat. New York 13, stand up for Darlisa today. Espaillat should walk with his head in disgrace. Vote Espaillat out today. Shame.
Shame on you, Espaillat. Shame on you. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should walk through New York 13 with your head in disgrace, allowing racist, bigotry, hate, and lies to enter this congressional race directed towards Dari Eliza. She's run circles around you in this campaign, and the district will be better off with her as the representative. New York 13, stand up and vote for Dari Eliza today. But Espaillat, this is who you have been your entire career. Divide and conquer. Divide Black from Latino. There's never been no division. We have always lived together in peace and harmony and love, eating together, playing together, going to school together. But you can only win with divide and conquer and hate, which are right-wing Republican, AIPAC, Epstein, Cuomo, Trump class. Those are your friends. That's who you are. And character is revealed when our backs are against the wall.
Does my prediction of her winning still stand? I think she's going to win. But again, he's trying to distract the conversation into a really weird racial way. She's not Haitian. He's just lying. Do you see what I mean? With right-wingers, you can do nothing. They'll just make shit up and lie. That's why you can't be soft and be oh my God, I can't believe Graham Plattner was a veteran. Oh no, oh God. Because they'll just lie about people. They'll lie on you. They'll make it up. The question is, what are the policies? Who do you stand with? What if she was? Who fucking cares? The point I'm making, of course you're right. I'm not saying it matters if she's Haitian or not. The point I'm trying to make is you can never have a candidate who's a perfect candidate because they're always just going to use the most disgusting, vile lies they can. So you need to get tough and recognize who is my enemy and who is on my side and move against your enemy.
On you, Espaillat. New York 13, stand up for Dari Eliza today. Let's go.
Need to take from the fact that he's had to campaign so hard against a person who just a few months ago most New Yorkers did not know.
Look, I do think on one level primaries are healthy, and so yeah, it's good that he has to work hard to hold his seat. But I also think, you know, if progressives are going to run candidates against incumbents, can you please run serious people who are for Medicare for all, who want to change our policies in the Middle East, but who actually have some experience, who are not out there calling for literally abolishing police and prisons and seizing private property and stuff that just, you know, most Americans, including most progressive Americans across the country, are going to react negatively against. So for me, like this is a failure of the progressive leadership in this country.
One of the things that I like, the thing about prison abolition and things like that, and like, you know, defunding versus abolishing police and things like that. If you've been watching me since 2019, you know that I'm not really a big fan of those as rhetorical strategies to describe what we're trying to do. Right? I've said this since 2019 that I'm not agreeing with him, by the way. Just let me finish. I've always said that people don't know what it means, right? And it is not something like, it's something that you need to understand, make sense in an academic situation. It doesn't make sense as far as a political, you know, policy plank. Like, what do you even, like, you don't know what you're fucking saying. And there's a reason why DARI Lisa has to now go away from that, because it is a aspirational policy. Like I tweeted this the other day. I've actually studied you know, prison abolition, which is why I brought up a Harvard Law article on abolition. Harvard Law Review on abolition. It's not actually a policy. It's an aspirational radical statement of like, we want to live in a society that doesn't have prisons. It's not a policy program. It's not a, hey, if I was in charge of our, you know, maximum security prison, I would open the gates tomorrow. That's not actually the policy. That's not what people are even saying. Even the most hardcore prison abolitionists, if you sit down next to them and say, do you think that domestic violence abusers should walk free? Do you think child molesters should walk free? Do you think that murderers should walk free? Like with no like they would say no. Like that's, you know, and the concept, obviously, you know, I talk about this, it's called the dangerous few. Like basically there's what abolitionists want to do is they want to abolish our system, because it is a military, it is a prison industrial complex. It is got, you know, the war on drugs that have been used to enslave, you know, the underclass in America, mostly black people, black and brown people. And we want to abolish the way our system works at our police departments, at our police unions. And we want to do massive reforms. But like the idea that it means no police anywhere, or no public safety, and no, you know, custodial, you know, treatment. That's not true. I mean, for most abolitionists, maybe there are some super radical anarchists who just, they don't really believe in, you know, they just say shit. But I highly recommend you guys read this article if you want to know about the problems with like abolition as it's not a actual policy. Like, you know what I mean? Like there isn't we're doing prison abolition and therefore we're going to do this. That's not what it is. Did you talk about Honduras Gate and the plan to take over Latin America? No, it's not really a good timing for that. So, you know, that's my response to that. I've always been somebody who's like, I want to, you know, listen, we'll close the last prison once we know, you know, right? We'll close the gates on the last prison right as the last billionaire goes the way of the dodo. Okay? When we no longer have any billionaires, then we'll no longer need any prisons. When we no longer have any genocidal Zionists, we'll no longer need any prisons.
Political courage right now is not about standing up to the establishment. That is literally the easiest thing for any Democrat in any primary to do. Political courage is telling people on your side sometimes things that they don't want to hear. Don't go too far. You can condemn the Israeli government. You should be condemning Netanyahu. But if you cannot condemn Hamas terrorists who torture and kill Palestinian civilians, like, don't be running for Congress. Don't take positions. Don't spend all of your young life taking positions that you then have to completely repudiate when you're running for Congress. But that's your only record for being there. And I really, I would look to folks who I respect, like Senator Sanders and Mayor Mamdani, to exercise a little bit more judgment in the candidates they promote, because they have enormous influence over young voters.
Tom, I do have to say, Chevalier has actually condemned Hamas. I do know the other posts.
Well, she refused to do it in the New York Times interview that she did repeatedly. She was asked to do that. That's not a hard thing to do.
By the way, like again, the condemn Hamas shit. Do you condemn the IDF? Do you condemn Israel? Do you think Israel, the IDF, should be named a terrorist organization or an or a genocidal military? Should they be adjudicated under international law to be a human rights violating military? Should all the units of Israel be designated under the Leahy law as ineligible for any American assistance or weapons? How often do you hear those questions asked? You literally have never heard them asked. Hamas is a indigenous defense resistance group with politics that I don't agree with, as far as like, you know, they have Islamist politics. I don't agree with political Islam. But who gives a shit? That would be like saying, I don't agree with Polish ultra-nationalism as they're defending themselves from the Nazi invasion. Like, what the fuck are you saying? They're fighting the Nazis. I have my disagreements over their healthcare policy. Like, what are we fucking saying? Get out of here.
And again, like, I really welcome the fact that we're talking
also,
about...
like, all these guys understand, like, they're the first person to tell you the Azov battalion is fine. They're the first guys to tell you the Nazis, every single Ukrainian soldier that's ever has a picture taken of them has a Nazi patch on. They'll tell them, how dare you take the side of Russia, right? They're the first to be able to go, well, listen, you know, that symbol has different meaning in Ukraine. But now they want you to spend your time condemning Hamas all day? You can understand that the Ukrainians are under a foreign invasion and you're not trying to nitpick them, but now you're running around saying condemn Hamas as they're actually being genocided. And I want you to understand, Israel is worse than Russia. When Russia bombs a village, they don't say no civilians are allowed to leave the village and then put the village under siege and refuse to allow water and food into the village. Civilians can flee the front lines. They don't lock the civilians in and say you're not allowed to flee the area and then bomb them and starve them and go, oh, there was a Ukrainian soldier in this village, we're going to carpet bomb everybody who moves. Not to say that they haven't murdered civilians. They have intentionally murdered civilians. They have bombed civilian infrastructure and buildings. But Israel has everybody into an open air concentration camp, and they've destroyed pretty much every residential building in Gaza. They don't allow the population to flee into Israel.
Foreign policy and congressional campaigns. I've spent my life in foreign policy and defending human rights around the world. But if your only issue is Israel, I think that's a red flag. And, you know, just as if, you know, you're concerned about dark money in American politics and your only issue is AIPAC and not the crypto groups, not the AI groups that are also very active in other New York races, that's a red flag for me. So I think we can do better than that without telling progressives don't fight for your issues, because they should be fighting for their issues.
Well, Chris, I want to bring you back into the conversation here, because you've had conversations with party leaders. You've also been out there speaking to voters. You have a sense of how everyday people are metabolizing some of these debates that are raging in the party at large. And I guess I want your thoughts on, like, the nuts and bolts of it. Like, what is it truly about for people? Is it about Israel? Is it about AIPAC? Is it about money in politics more broadly and the way people see cash spent overseas while they're suffering here at home? How does the average person actually understand the relationship between their domestic experience and what they see happening?
I don't want to discount the importance of the issue of Israel and obviously AIPAC specifically, but it was an AIPAC that gave completely $40 million to the New York 12, which is an unheard of amount of money, $10 million to other congressional campaigns. And I will tell you, as I talk to folks, particularly voters, they are incredibly concerned in a way. I don't have that experience of talking to voters this way about not just the influence, what are those people buying for the money that they're giving to the candidates, but also candidates themselves. We are seeing an increasing number of candidates who are self-funding, spending $100 million on a congressional race and that opens them to, and we'll see how successful they are, charges of you're trying to buy your way into power. But there's no doubt that the
Jam is going to Daria's and Claire's parties tonight with Brace and Kid Miro. Going to be a jam? Hell yeah.
Idea of dark money in politics, of untraceable money in politics, a group like AIPAC and
Russia doesn't call for 1,000 dead civilians for one dead soldier, as Ben Gvir did. Also, southern Lebanon is covered in white phosphorus right now. For someone to scold like that, insane. Yes, because he's a fucking Zionist. They just don't consider Palestinians to be human. I know that all of us do. So for us, we can't look at this situation and go, oh, this is normal. They just don't consider Palestinian lives to be equal to Israeli lives. They don't. So when you do, for them, it's incomprehensible. For them, it's like for them, it's like looking at a dog that's being put down. That's how they feel about Palestinian lives. Maybe they feel a little bit regretful that no one adopted them. But fundamentally, they don't consider it a human life being snuffed out. They just don't.
And what individuals aligned with them have contributed to some of these campaigns are things that people are looking at in a way that they never have.
God, there's never a progressive. There's never a fucking progressive. All right, chat, we've got ourselves a hog watch. We've got ourselves a hog watch.
Yes, it's election day.
We have ourselves a focus group. Prepare yourself for the brightest takes you're ever going to hear.
In New York, where voters will head to the polls for a series of high-stakes Democratic primaries. Mayor Zoran Mamdani will test his political influence.
I'm super bummed that they got rid of the auto captions because their captions are so much worse. And I hate where they put them on the screen. And it's just annoying as fuck.
He and his allies back several progressive contenders in their attempt to unseat two Democratic incumbents. Let's bring in MS Now senior Capitol Hill reporter and host of Way Too Early, Ali Vitale, and political anchor for Spectrum News, Errol Lewis. My thanks to you both for being here. Errol, I know you've been watching these races closely. Let's just start with the Mamdani factor here. You know, he's obviously only a few months in. Poll numbers look good. This is a pretty aggressive use of some political capital to take on incumbents from from the Democratic Party. Why is he doing this?
That's right. He's spending all of his political capital, and he gave the reason, really, in a speech just the other night, a final rally for the candidates that he's supporting. He's saying that the path to the White House in 2028 starts today, Tuesday. He's saying that this is the path forward for the whole Democratic Party, not just a matter of bumping off a couple of incumbents here or there. He's kind of thrown himself in with those who want to make war on Democratic moderates. One of the incumbents who they're trying to unseat is the chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. So these are not just, backbenchers who haven't been doing much. This is part of the House leadership that they're saying needs to be displaced today, right now, in order to win more in the next few years.
But obviously the electorate in New York City, very different than most of the rest of the country. Does Mamdani offer a theory of the case as to how they'd scale up?
It's a very interesting question that I intend to ask him the next time I interview him. I mean, because look, I mean, some of what's going to happen. I moderated the debates with all of these candidates that they've been pushing. They've got some ideas that will not sell in Des Moines or in Cleveland or in some of these other parts of the country, and I don't know what the plan is on how to.
That's why Graham Plattner is so important, guys. Right? Because if Graham Plattner wins, it debunks this entire argument. Also, bro, you're not in Des Moines. You're not in Cleveland. What the fuck are you talking about, bro? Both of those states are deep red states, by the way, that Kamala Harris got absolutely fucking annihilated in. Hillary Clinton lost horribly. Your centrist candidates dog shittily underperform, and get annihilated and fucking dog walked. Who are you talking to?
Sort of turn that into, what I have heard from their strategists is that they want people who are going to fight, get themselves arrested, introduce legislation, whether or not it has a chance of getting a hearing or ever becoming law. And I guess in the long term, they want to shift the entire political discussion substantially to the left. And that's the goal.
When you talk about scalability, that is one of the things that fellow New Yorker Hakeem Jeffries would point to in his tenuous truce, it seems, with Mamdani. And in a lot of these primaries, it pits the Jeffries-backed candidate, the incumbent, against Mamdani's own desires. So how are you thinking about that kind of a subplot of New Yorker versus New Yorker.
Well, yeah, it's a real fight. I mean, it's a real scrum, and it's happening down. I won't bore everybody with the state legislative races that are a part of this entire insurrection that's going on. But look, the reality is they're spending tens of millions of dollars on these races, and I think there's going to be a question that's called at some point in the future: was this the best use of Democratic time and money and energy and ideas to fight over a 5 or 6 degree difference between I mean, they're all progressives, you know, but they're saying, well, you're not the right kind of progressive. You're not right on this issue. You're not right on that issue.
I think one of the things about like MSNBC and kind of mainstream media in general is like, look at how stupid this coverage is. Like, look at how unserious and how much of a joke this blathering is. Do you guys think he's a moron, or is he doing it intentionally because he has total contempt for the audience? Is it because he's a fucking evil piece of shit like liar, or is he actually stupid? I think it's because he's an evil troglodyte fraud, right? Because I feel like he would always instantly be able to tell you who he's against, which tells you that his ability to analyze and know who he's against means he understands the differences between Elizabeth Warren and Zohran Mamdani are actually pretty significant. The differences between Dr. Abdul El Sayed and Mallory McMorrow are pretty goddamn significant, right? And the term progressive, as it's used in American politics, is totally meaningless.
Not young enough, you know, you've been around for too long. You're not fighting hard enough, even if there is no legislation that could conceivably make it through a Republican-controlled House of Representatives.
So New York is among 4 states that will decide primary elections today, but not every registered voter will get to cast a ballot. And Allie, you have reporting on that, please.
Yeah, because many of the races that we're talking about here in New York today are examples of safe blue seats, which means the real contest and, of course, the real choice for voters happens now today, not in November. And yet millions of voters might not be able to have their voices heard when it matters.
So this is okay. So this is the new AIPAC strategy. The new AIPAC strategy, I guess, is to fight for open primaries, and then in deep blue districts, try to convince Republican rat fuckers to go and vote in the primary for the most right-wing Democrat. Is that the new strategy that they're trying to advocate for?
As more states redraw their congressional lines ahead of the midterms,
88 ayes and 52 nays.
The general election map is getting more predictably red or blue.
Now it's even harder to vote.
That doesn't just give parties an edge in November. In most places, it makes November almost a formality. The real contest in these safer seats is in the primary. And so here we are sitting in New York. Election day is Tuesday. All of you could vote, but raise your hand if you are.
If we are voting?
If you are voting on Tuesday.
Well, that comes with a caveat, Allie.
More than 20 states and D.C. have closed or partially closed primaries, including New York. So if you're not registered with a party...
By the way, a semi-closed primary just means the Republican can't vote for the Democrat and vice versa. But you can vote if you're an independent and you elect to vote with a party. So you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck's wrong with a semi-closed primary? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. The closed primary, it's tough because, you know, on the one hand, a lot of people, especially young people, are registered as independents and they would vote with the progressive left in a primary, right? So I want those people to be able to vote, but I don't want Republicans to rat fuck and come and vote in primaries for the most right-wing candidate.
Can't vote in the primary.
I'd say I'm here to vote. They say, Mr. Brady, you're not registered. I said, I know. I want a provisional ballot. I get a provisional ballot knowing that it's not going to count. My point is that I want my voice to be heard, and I want them to know that I am there.
We call that the Cinemarxism method. That's the Cinemarxism method. I'm going to just do some random ass bullshit I made up on my own and then act really fucking smug about it.
Voters are just a few of the more than...
Imagine going on national television and telling everyone you're an idiot.
39 million Americans not registered to or affiliated with either party.
Somebody calls up and says, are you going to vote? And I say, well, I can't. I'm an independent. They said, well, you could register as a Democrat.
You could.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm an independent.
I'm sure you've had similar conversations.
So I did pick a side.
Legitimately, like, again, I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I'm legitimately not trying to be mean. But these party identities mean nothing. They really do mean absolutely fucking nothing. You're voting for policies.
And then I decided, you know what, no more. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to either party because I don't belong to either party.
Closed primary supporters argue it keeps the party strong and protects the process from meddling by outside actors.
One of the things that's really frustrating about watching something like this is I want to call it stupid, but it's malicious because they never ask these people any questions of any human worth or merit. They can be like, okay, why don't you identify with either party? And what would you like to see from the government? These are, I mean, this is legitimately a waste of time. That's why no one watches this shit. You guys are right not to watch this shit. Like, you're correct. It is garbage. Unfortunately, it's relevant because boomers still watch.
Yeah, they do that a lot. They say you don't want Elks Club members voting in Rotary Club elections.
John Opdyke founded Open Primaries, a group that...
This guy looks like a CIA agent. This unironically looks like a Langley photograph. Also, Updike is like the most fascist name I've ever seen. In 2001, he helped elect Mike Bloomberg as the first independent mayor of New York City. He founded Open Primaries in 2009 and expanded it nationally in 2014. His main goal appears to be to help centrist candidates in deep blue districts by allowing Republican operatives to vote in Democratic primaries to push the party to the right. I want to see his very oldest posts. Oregon top 2 primary? Okay, there you go. Like this goal, the Oregon, like this shit, jungle primaries are designed to allow Republicans to win in deep blue cities and states. Oh God, that's fucking terrible. That's fucking terrible.
I'm an independent voter. We're 31% of all voters, but are locked out of voting in the primaries. A yes vote for ballot measure 90 changes that by allowing everyone to vote. Join me in voting yes on 90 and use your vote to give everyone.
Yeah, I mean, this is so obviously an op. God, it's so obviously an op to make the Democratic Party more conservative.
Voting in Rotary Club elections.
John Opdyke founded Open Primaries, a group that advocates for opening up the process.
It's a good image.
And that does sort of sound
right. Logical, and rational. The thing that they won't actually grapple with is that that's what happens in a closed primary system.
According to Opdyke and the organization's own polling, about 40% of registered Democrats in New York City say they're actually independents.
They just joined to be able to vote. And there's a million more that won't do that.
According to Gallup, Americans are increasingly identifying as independent, reaching a record high of 45% in 2025.
Which means and then there's again, this shit is so fucking tired. And obviously this guy's a fucking fraud. Most of the time it's because people think the Democratic Party, they actually identify strongly with one side of the aisle. They just feel like their party isn't sufficiently in their direction. They're not actually independent swing voters between the two parties. They want something even more bold.
Depending on where they happen to live, millions of voters might not be able to use their voices until the race is already, in effect, decided. That is, unless
it's
parties
only decided
or states...
because the majority of people in the district don't like your shit, and they're voting for one of the parties. They have the, like, run for your right-wing, centrist politician, you fucking fraudulent bitch. Like, what they're trying to do is have it so the Republicans could vote in the Democratic primary and then vote again in the general, while you only get one vote. Fuck off.
Make a change.
We should be in a position to choose who represents us, to just let them know what's important to us without having to be constrained by joining their club.
Now, these voters were passionate. They were also hopeful that more states would change and open up their processes so more people could participate in the primary. And some states, like Oregon, are considering doing that. That said, other states are trending in the opposite direction. Take Texas, where just this month, Republican Governor Greg Abbott told attendees at his state's party convention he was going to, in his words, make clear in the future that only Republicans vote in Republican primaries. So again, Lemire, it begs the question, what happens if you're a voter who refuses to pick a side?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It comes in connection with, or at the same time as, we're just seeing, Errol, fewer and fewer true swing states anymore, swing districts anymore, swing states and swing districts, in part because of the redistricting efforts we're seeing. That's including happened here. There's talk in New York. We have seen it in California. We've seen it in Texas, lots of states. And it does feel like there's sort of this our basic sort of fundamental American ethos of like you try to talk to your neighbor, you try to build consensus, and we're seeing more and more politicians don't have to do that anymore.
No, that's right.
Again, notice that their way of building consensus is to shut the Democratic Party to the right by letting Republicans and like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not talking about, let's try to get the voters to elect candidates that line up with their policy preferences as close as possible. It's about creating these weird systems to increase conservative power in the Democratic Party. Now, I got to tell you, like, personally, I consider this to be treason. I think that people pushing this should probably not be allowed to be in politics at all. I have such a strong visceral reaction, and it is, you know, inside of my head. It's Peepo Smile level. These people are fucking disgusting frauds, and they're trying to make our system less representative. That's why the reason why they hate ranked choice voting, because people get to vote exactly for who they want and eliminate spoilers. They're against that system, but they want jungle primaries that have all sorts of anti-democratic outcomes. Why? Because that increases the odds of right-wing power in blue states and cities. They don't want people to have what the majority wants accurately, because that leads to Zoran Mamdani. They want situations like California, where a Republican makes it into the top 2 with 20% of the vote.
It's harder and harder to do that. There used to be, and it's still enshrined in some state constitutions, that there should not be gerrymandering. There should not be partisan gerrymandering. There are supposed to be independent commissions in some states. There's supposed to be, again, just a legal prohibition against doing what so many political party leaders want to see done. And it doesn't seem to be working. You know, the reality, though, is you have to really accept that people do sort themselves according to ideology, religion, and other kind of factors. And if everybody in a small town all believe kind of in the same direction, that they want certain things to happen, who are we from the outside to tell them that, no, you can't associate and do that? We want to make sure that all kinds of other people get in and sort of muddle the very ideas that you say you want to come together around. So it's a long-standing problem. You know, George Washington and other founding fathers distrusted parties for exactly this reason, factions. But people do tend to sort of group themselves. I mean, the Democratic Party is the oldest political party in the world. They came together to get the Bill of Rights passed. There were people who didn't believe in what, you know, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment, you know, so to the extent that people want to, either in a legislative body or as voters, get together around certain ideas, I think we want to make sure we don't sort of do away with that. That people who truly can't pick a side on something like abortion or voting rights or, you know, the right to carry arms, if you can't make a decision, maybe you should stay outside the room and let those of us who have an opinion get together and figure out what.
Political anchor for Spectrum News, Errol Lewis. Errol, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. MS Now senior Capitol Hill reporter and host of Way Too Early, Al Vitale. Thank you as well.
Wow, that was bad. God, I really don't like these people. Holy shit, I really don't like these people.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you for the respectful dialogue.
By the way, I want to tell you I respect you a lot. I saw when you cried for Charlie Kirk. You actually have a soul.
Have a good one.
He looked at him and she said,
He stood unshaken, a voice in the storm, a man of conviction.
Okay, listen, he was shaking a bit. Okay, he was shaking a bit. Like, say what you will. Charlie Kirk was shaking. Okay? She's kind of shaking like a leaf.
A heart reborn. He spoke the truth when the cost was high. He lived for Jesus, unafraid to die. We are Charlie Kirk, we carry the flame. We'll fight for the gospel, we'll honor his name. We are Charlie Kirk, his courage our own. Together unbroken, we'll make
right, sorry. Back to Dean.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you for the respectful dialogue.
By the way, I want to tell you I respect you a lot. I saw when you cried for Charlie Kirk. You actually have a soul.
Have a good one.
Oh, fucking got him. Oh no. Oh no. She actually brought that up as a positive. TikTok is gonna eat his ass alive for that one. Oh no. Dude, hey.
We are Charlie Kirk. We carry the
Oh, like that lady didn't actually say that as a negative, by the way. That lady just straight up said that because she genuinely was like, oh, I'm so glad you cried when Charlie Kirk died. It shows me that you have a soul as opposed to these fucking godless libs. But that is not going to be read positively by the rest of the TikTok audience that he has. They bully him on his stream because of that.
Likes on this,
We are Charlie.
Okay, she was about to start playing the piano. I bet that you were going to kill it, low key. Welcome into Sport Trump.
We are Charlie.
You played the wrong version. Play this version.
He stood unshaken, a voice in the storm, a man of conviction, a heart reborn. He spoke the truth with.
Honestly, this is kind of the best style I've ever seen for Charlie Kirk. He's kind of eating a little bit.
Cost was high. He lived for Jesus.
He's the type of like kirked up white boy who like ran into the right woman at about 18, 19. All right, this is the Charlie Kirk who's still alive and quite happy.
Pretty impressive vocals, but those are now two bands.
Yeah, he hit he hit shrooms and they affected him in the right way, the correct way.
Back to back.
We are Charlie Kirk.
No
we
fucking
carry the flame. We fight for the gospel.
I vetted your account.
We'll honor his name.
She has
We
posts
are Charlie
dating like 2 weeks back about how she's MAGA.
Courage our own.
Photos of her fishing.
Together we are Charlie Kirk.
And you are banned. Welcome into Sport Trump. Rosie.
We are Charlie Kirk.
And you are banned. Yes, Mayor.
Ooh, I gotta be honest. You guys gotta help me here. Who the fuck is watching Dean on live talking to random chuds all day? That's the political analysis you want. That's what people want. Legitimately, you want that?
Load them up in the box. And you are also banned because I don't really want this shit today. Seeing if you support Trump.
We are Charlie.
Welcome in. Do you support Trump, Rick?
We are Charlie Kirk.
It's funny every time.
Your next guest, Brooke. This looks like a troll account.
We are Charlie Kirk. We carry the flame. We'll fight for the gospel.
She's got pipes.
Dude, she does not quit,
She's got pipes,
dude. You know what's
dude.
deep down is funny? It's like getting Rick roll is the same tempo every time I'm weak. Stop silencing
good,
women's
dude.
voices.
She's good.
Who is this person, bro?
She's like
just
Mara's legitimately kind of talented. I'm not gonna lie. Like she hits that. She hits that.
cooking his ass, dude. Oh shit, she follows me. Respect, by the way. That was awesome.
Hey, listen, I appreciate you for the respectful dialogue.
Oh, dude, wow, she's insane. Like, legitimately, I don't know anything about her other than the Charlie Kirk thing, and it's good. And I think she treats Dean with about the level of respect that he deserves. All right, I gotta show you this, chat. Brianna Jolie Gray has to be the dopiest motherfucker of all time. Am I roboting? All right, hold on. Is that better? Saved. Yeah. I think some of my audio equipment is on its last legs, chat. Anyway, what was I saying? I've had this microphone for 7 years. So it's given me some pretty good service. It's probably the cable. I mean, I could replace that. What was I saying? Oh, Brianna Joy Gray may be the dopiest fuck. How are you falling for this? How the fuck are you falling for this?
I would not support the, there's no chance I'm party. I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. I don't know what I'm going to, but at this point, you know, how could I or any American voter support a political party that's not loyal to the United States? that puts the interests of a foreign country above those of its own citizens. That's it's not possible to vote for that, and I'm not going to. And I think I voted Republican my entire life. I worked at Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. I've been a consistent defender for 35 years of the Republican Party. I mean, very consistent. But there's no defending this because it's immoral, and it's exactly the opposite of what a political party in a democracy is charged with doing, which is representing its own voters, its own citizens, its own nation, and they're not doing that. So no, I'm out. And if I'm out, then I think a lot of other people are out. I would not support the There's no chance I'm party. I'm not going to support the Democratic Party. I don't know what.
Like, how the fuck do you fall for this? This is like the same basic fascist playbook they've had since 1925, which is take left-wing issues, co-opt them, co-opt the language, and then spend the energy in the exact same way as every other conservative movement, which is defending the hierarchy, defending the status quo, defending the elite, defending the capitalist class. Like, this is legitimately stupid, and you're an embarrassment if you call yourself a left-winger and you fall for it. We're getting a new third party, and it's going to be conservative in character because most of the American left has been more interested in fueling anti-war economic populist voters back to the corporate warmongering Democratic Party than agitating around an alternative. This is fucking brain dead. Absolutely brain dead. You're literally watching today Zohran Mamdani as the mayor of New York City, which have only happened because he was running in the Democratic primary and won, now getting the most anti-war, economically populist candidates in the country running for Congress, where in New York City against the corporate Dems. And they're going to win. If they win the primary, they're going to win power. Why? Because they ran in the primary and they didn't run in some meaningless, no chance, third party loser bullshit. This is fucking brain dead. It's brain dead. It's less than stupid. You are legitimately stupid. You're fucking stupid. Bernie Sanders ran as a Democrat because he was trying to win. He's going to support the Republican Party. Not only that, Brianna Joy Gray, you are so bad at this. It's unbelievable how bad you are at this. You know, you could start your own party, by the way. It's so funny because Brianna Joy Gray, they tried to do this. It was called the People's Party. What was it? The People's... What was the call? People's Party? What the fuck was it called? Do you guys remember? The People Party. No, People's Party. Does it even exist anymore? Building a major new populist party free of corporate money. They have never a single time run a candidate for any election. Now I guess they're posting Nick Brana. That's it. That's all they do. That's all it does now. RFK Jr. will lead the Health and Human Services. Get ready to make America healthy again. These people are fucking stupid. They're stupid. This is somebody who Brianna Joy Gray promoted. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. He's an active advisor to People Party US. Your theory of change might not be compatible with third parties, but it's simply not accurate to claim he's not trying to build a positive agenda for change. 4 years as a party. How many candidates have they run for elected office? How much money raised and where was it spent? How many doors knocked, phones dialed, or lit drops completed? How many volunteers that have completed one canvassing shift? And like, this shit's fucking embarrassing, man. Like, again, I'm not against a third party as an idea. I'm actually an advocate of a dirty break. But what I've always tried to explain to you guys is it's about context, and it is a tool in the toolbox. It is a move that we can make under the right conditions. Those conditions do not exist. What does exist is that actually we are winning power through a Democratic primary entry strategy. It's literally happening right now. Zohran Mamdani is an example. But we don't have any loyalty to the Democratic Party because there is no Democratic Party. It is a spot on the ballot. It gives us an opportunity to win. If the Democratic Party can be changed, all the better. But the third party shit isn't happening. It's just not happening because it's not the right decision. And this is an example that I give a lot. But friend of the show, Jabari Brisport, he tried this exact shit. He ran as a Green Party candidate. In the New York City Council election, he decided to run as a Green, right? And he got 8,117 votes. Wow, pretty good. He got defeated by the Democrat. Damn. He also ran as on the Socialist Party line. Damn. Then he said, all right, I guess I'll run as a Democrat in the primary. And do you know what happened? He fucking won. And now he's a senator. Do you understand that winning is more important than what label is next to your fucking name? It's brain dead bullshit. And being locked in to the idea that we have to do a third party. And 4 years ago or 6 years ago, Brianna Joy Gray was helping Bernie Sanders run as a Democrat for president. And he lost, but he could have won. Does she legitimately think it would have been better if Bernie Sanders had just been had no chance of winning for the left? It's nonsensical. It's stupid. By the way, notice how Brianna Joy Gray ignored this point. Because at the moment you stop talking about these as like, oh, we should do this, and you actually go, okay, you've been working on the third party shit. What's the results? There is no results. Meanwhile, those of us who are like, we strategically should run for offices, sometimes as a Democrat, we have the most important city in the fucking country as mayor. Their points they're literally stupid. So with that, chat, I gotta actually go. I got the podcast today. I believe we have Atushane Films coming on the pod. So make sure you guys are signing up for the reaction and you are listening to it. Reaction podcast on all your favorite platforms. I'm going to send y'all over to Vio. Vio is doing a raid or doing a stream. I think she's got, maybe there's going to be some special guests. So say hi to Vio for me. Socialism will win. She's back. The fact of the matter is we haven't had a leftist bold enough to stand up and actually say the magic words revolution yet. Or just natural strikes. That's not even true. The people that talk about these words aren't doing anything to build them. Sean Fain is building towards a national general strike for May 1st, 2028. The leader of the United Auto Workers, one of the few people that actually has any chance of making that happen. You're just not involved in the real shit, so you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a general, bro. You're not the strategist. Humble yourself and get involved. All right, everybody, stay safe. See you later. Solidarity forever. Socialism will win. Volunteer for DSA now.